always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and this is going to be absolutely exciting because we got to watch training camp in person for another time, and a lot of stuff happened, Alex.
A lot of glorious stuff happened. Folks, Jalen Hurd watch was in full effect at day 13 of training camp. Ant and I really couldn't keep our eyes off him. It was really hard to not be gazing in the direction of him. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of great content to cover from today, a lot of things that we're just going to get to go over, and that's good and great and all. And I hope to God, Ant, that your audio is good because we didn't check beforehand, and that's going to be interesting indeed.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone should just give us a thumbs up if they can hear us.
I think your audio sounds good. Let's hope that it's all good here. Everything on my end is reading fine and reading properly, and we got a little ahead of ourselves and a little excited. So Let us know. If we got to do some stuff and clean up some audio, let us know about it in the chat below. But let's get into this. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already as well. Join the Cutback crew today and go cop yourself some sweet merch. We'll get the plug in now. Get it out of the way. A lot of things from day 13 to talk about, right? A lot of things happening. The DNPs, let's start with those. We had a nice little list today. Shark was off today. You had Bosa not out there today running. Kinlaw not out there today running. Ebukam not out there running. Al-Shaair not out there doing really much of anything. And for a little bit, we thought maybe no Debo. It looks like Debo was out there at practice and suited up. We did see him, what looks like him anyway, out there on the sideline with the team.
It was him.
But he wasn't really running in team drills.
No, I wasn't doing anything like that. I think a lot of these guys are resting up, getting 2 days before. They explained the K1 Williams thing where he had the collision with Greenlaw yesterday. So he had a little bit of a hip thing. Arden Key also missed with a leg contusion from another friendly fire incident. So I mean, it's all day-to-day stuff, nothing serious, nothing that needs to, be worried about. These guys are just resting up, getting ready for the game. They'll have tomorrow off, and then they'll have, the first part of Saturday off before they play that night. So we're sitting in a good position overall as far as injuries. I think one of the things that was a takeaway that was a little disappointing was that Tony Jefferson is now on IR. So a guy we were hoping, could contribute to this team early on is definitely not going to contribute right away. And so we'll see how this safety room shakes out. But the whole time we were wondering how they were going to figure out 5 safeties on this roster. And now with Tart having his injury and Jefferson on the IR, it's a lot more clear how that safety room is going to look.
Agreed. It's very clear. Getting the first look at Clinton-Dix was nice. Just getting to see this group out there and getting to see them up close and personal, because today, of all days, Secret Shanny wasn't as secretive. He allowed the team to practice out in front of the fans a little bit more on the close side of that field, the close side of the practice facility to where the seats are. So we got a much better look at this team, at this roster, at this group, and what they were trying to do and what they were trying to accomplish. A pretty standard practice. They had the EDDs to start like they've had every single practice that they get into in their walkthroughs and things of that nature. And then they got themselves into some nice move the ball situations and some nice just situational stuff. 3rd and 8s, right? 3rd and 10s.
Right.
And then playing off of that and trying to continue drives at the end of the game. And a lot of pressure very early in practice, a lot of blitzes, and Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo having to deal with guys in their face.
Yeah, they were working on hots, I think. They were working on hot routes. Receivers being able to recognize and break off their routes. Quarterbacks being able to recognize and get rid of the football. And early on, it wasn't really going that great all the time for the quarterbacks. This is less of a less of a offensive line issue and more of a recognition issue. Somebody's going to come free. You have to figure out where that guy is going to be, and then get the ball out to your hot route. It was fun to watch. It was nice to see them so up close and personal. I think we got a better idea of where they were sitting, as far as how they were executing plays and like exactly what they were trying to accomplish on those. They did a good job of making sure that when they did move the ball, they moved it quick and they did all that. But it was definitely the most exciting of even maybe more exciting than Saturday. It was the most exciting of the days that we've been out there, and I know they didn't do as much because, yesterday was the day that they had a bunch of reps, over 100 reps on offense. They didn't do as much, but I thought that when they did it, there was times where the pace was so great, and it was a lot of fun to watch, especially when they did 2-minute drill.
The 2-minute drill was a lot of fun. And look, we got to see some things that we weren't expecting to see. We got to see Jalen Hurd operating a little bit with the first team at times and really operating a lot in 11-on-11 situations, which we had not gotten the chance to see in person. Not to mention the fact that we got to see Trey Lance at one point taking some reps against the first team defense in what was a walkthrough against scout defense. So really having him with the second unit, he was with the second offense, but going against the first team defense. So you're going to have people, I imagine I figured someone may report on it as such. Trey Lance takes his first reps against the first team defense. He did, but it was a scout situation in which the first team D was going about half speed for the most part. And it was funny getting to watch all the fans reacting on the big completions and things like that when they were happening during a scout offense and scout defensive session.
Yeah, they were running the Kansas City looks, what they expect Kansas City to run, so that way Trey Lance could get the familiarity with it. And that's where we saw it, right? It was all Trey Lance. Jimmy didn't do any of that, and the reason is because Jimmy's going to play one series in the game on Saturday, and Trey's going to play 30-plus snaps. And it could be the rest of the first half, or it could even go to the third quarter. Kyle said he's going to make sure he gets him his snaps. So, yeah, it's really, if you understand what's going on the field, seeing them run the scout is anytime they pull out the play cards and they're holding them up so everyone can see it. You're not running anything in your offense or defense. You're running it what the other team would run. So that's what they were doing. We got to see it up close and personal, and you could tell too the defense wasn't going full speed. And so it was kind of a wash point to watch. It really, once we saw what they were doing, we didn't keep track of who was catching the ball, who was not. If you were keeping track, you would know that Trey, made a couple big throws down the field where Jimmy Ward literally just stopped and let the ball get caught. So it was definitely a different world, but overall it was fun. And you talked about Jalen Hurd, and yesterday we talked about Jalen Hurd, and we said he was going to bounce back. He was going to have that day, and he had that day. At one point in the 2-minute offense, he caught back-to-back passes, including one for 13 and one for 23.
And the 13 was on a 3rd and 8 where they needed it to extend the drive.
Yep, and he would have gotten absolutely whacked by Talanoa Hufanga, so thank God for there being no big-time hits today, and Talanoa Hufanga taking it easy on his guy because Trey kind of laid him out there a little bit. But later on, Trey found him on the very next play a little bit deeper, got him the ball, and he was able to turn upfield. And he was looking to finish on Talanoa Hufanga that time. Of course, he pulled up as well, but it was nice to see Hurd doing that. You could tell Hurd's legs are not underneath him as far as he's still got to get into better football shape playing football because he came off a little bit after that gas and they brought in Juwan Jennings. But it was nice to see him out there. Kyle says he's not going to play in this game. I think we're all hoping and shooting for him playing against the Chargers, and if he does, it'll be exciting to see what he can do. But if he can stack performances on the ones like he had today, because he was winning in his routes, he was getting separation, he was sitting down in the zone when he was supposed to, they were moving him around formations through motion. This was the most we saw from Jalen Hurd. It was exciting to see. He looked healthy. I don't think anyone should be surprised now when this guy steps up and starts making plays.
Let's go. 24 hours ago, right? The stuff was coming out.
Yeah,
this guy's done. Is this it for Hurd in San Francisco? Stock down was some of the stuff that was being put out there and being said. We read some comments and some quotes about him not being able to create separation, and we brought that up this morning. Right, we talked about that this morning a little bit about how maybe those things are a little bit overstated, or, what do you mean by separation? Because separation can mean a lot of different things. Folks, Jalen Hurd can separate. Jalen Hurd got open pretty much on every single route with the exception of a few. I told you, and there was only one route where I looked at Jalen Hurd and was concerned, and the only reason I was concerned was because Richie James got absolutely destroyed off the line, blown into Jalen Hurd trying to run his route. He was trying to get an inside release for an outside corner route to reset the corner. Corner was playing on the outside shade of him at the start of the set. He releases inside to try and get that safety kind of open up and get back over the top of him so he can make the outside move. And Richie James gets blown into him, and the route goes from having the ability to potentially turn into something to Hurd just trying to salvage it, and Trey Lance ends up actually putting the ball in a really good spot, high and away towards the sideline where either Hurd's going to be able to get up and get it or the ball's going out of bounds and it's an incomplete pass. So Trey Lance throws the ball to where Hurd was supposed to be, and unfortunately Hurd couldn't get there because his teammate got blown off his route.
Yeah, no one would have been able to get there.
No.
And there's a couple of things that have come into the chat. I seen Monica said, basically, did we hear that Andy Reid said he's going to play his first team defense through the first half? Great. Thank you, Andy Reid, for doing that.
Absolutely.
That way Trey Lance gets reps against a first team defense. Go ahead and do that. Let's see how he does. It's going to be tough for him, but these are preseason games. This is what you want. Put him in the fire, and let's see what he can do. And I think that he will do fine. And if he's really ready to ascend, like everyone says he is, then he's going to do well in this game. But I don't know why Andy Reid's doing it, but I'm okay with that.
It is what it is. If Reid's going to let us get opportunities to see Trey versus a first-team defense and a first-team look, I'll take that all day, every day. Now, granted, it most likely will be against our twos because you're probably not going to be giving our ones an entire first quarter in that first preseason game. They may get a series.
Are you talking about defense or offense?
I'm talking about our offense.
Our offense is coming out with Jimmy after the first series.
I would agree with you completely,
Kyle said.
100%. Okay.
Yeah,
so
he
there
said
you go.
100%.
So there it is. So Kyle says it, so that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. So you're going to get our twos versus the Chiefs ones. So that's going to be a big test because our twos, we've seen them struggle. We've seen them struggle in camp and in practice. This line has a little bit. So they're going to get a big test early on in this preseason. The guys behind the starters are going to have to show out. This will be a great test for Banks, right? Great test for McKivitz. And that's the one thing that we got to bring up that was real interesting from camp because we were sitting around a lot of people and no one was really pointing it out or talking about it. I don't even know if anyone else noticed it. Tom Compton was operating at right tackle solely today, and Colton McKivitz was operating at the left guard spot.
Yeah, they flipped spots from Tuesday when we went and watched them.
It's weird.
Yeah, it was different. And you know what? They actually did pretty well.
Compton looked pretty good.
So I don't know if it was just something they were working on to make sure they have flexibility at those positions, or if it was something they're looking to do as far as a depth thing. Is Compton officially going to be playing tackle? McKivitz back inside? I have no idea, but both of them looked pretty good when they were out there. Of course, they were overwhelmed at times. That's what you expect from a second team going against this type of defensive line. But it was definitely an interesting thing to watch because I was surprised when I saw number 66 out at right tackle. It's like, wait a second. Why is Colton McKivitz left guard and why is he right? It jumped out. It was something that you don't expect to see from that second team offensive line, but maybe it worked. Maybe it made a difference because they were better than all the reports were from yesterday that that second team was complete trash. To this time, it seemed like they were playing better. Banks was playing pretty good, anchoring down a lot of times when they were trying to bull rush him. So overall, I thought they looked better than they had looked on Tuesday.
Correct. It was a better performance than it was Tuesday. And there were still their moments, like we talked about during that first kind of move the ball drill where they were working situationals and down and distance and things of that nature and kind of compounding down and distance, right? If it was first down, you got a penalty, it was 1st and 15. They were just working on situationals and certain types of plays. It was very, very interesting just to see how that second group handled the pressure. They handled it better than they had in the past. Trey still had a couple times where he took some sacks or what would have been sacks. Jimmy also had some of those as well because the first team defense was so swarming from every which direction at all times. This was a different performance from this defense, whereas sometimes we felt the defense maybe didn't start slow, but the offense gets some things moving and then the defense eventually stiffens up. The defense was pretty tight from start to finish all of practice, and the offense was kind of trying to find their rhythm and get themselves going and get themselves into a groove. It wasn't until we got until about the 2-minute drill and the 2-minute situation that we started seeing the ball move with consistency.
Yeah, it was. And with the defense, I seen a question where they were asking if who looked better, Tavon Wilson or Talanoa Hufanga. It's Wilson. He looks better. I mean, right now, Hufanga's still growing, but Hufanga was pressing on routes today. He looked good out there. It's just, he's just, a rookie. He's just progressing nicely, but he's still a backup. He's not ready to start in this league yet, but both of those guys are good players. I just think Wilson has looked, smooth and clean so far.
He has. He really has. And Hufanga has, I got to tell you what, the one thing I have been impressed with is with some of his coverage stuff. He hasn't looked as bad as I thought he was going to be, or in terms of like certain aspects. Some of it does look cleaned up, and he does find himself in the right spot a good chunk of the time. So I do like the things that I see from Mr. Talanoa Hufanga, but Tavon Wilson has definitely been the standout guy in that secondary outside of Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward, again, today had a couple times where he almost came away with a football in 11-on-11 situations or 1-on-1 situations. He is pressing all over the field and swarming.
Yeah, he is. And I seen Pynor said, until he plays, Jalen Hurd doesn't deserve my interest. Trent Sherfield has been busting his butt, and Lance is really liking him. Well, Trent Sherfield worked with the ones today because Deebo Samuel wasn't out there practicing in 11-on-11s.
Correct.
Sherfield's good. He is. I have zero problems with Sherfield. But he didn't look dynamic today going against the ones. He looked good, like always. He always looks clean. But
this was a step down today in terms of the types of big days that he has put on paper. He didn't have that kind of day today, and part of that was he was going against the ones.
Yeah, he was. It was him, Mohamed Sanu, and Brandon Ayuk, and you've seen those three struggle. They really struggled, to make plays. George Kittle was the one that stood out in any time that they were out with the ones. It was George Kittle that was making the bulk of the plays for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Correct. Megan, Jimmy is going to play the first series, the first drive, and then he's done for the day. And then Trey's got 30 plays. So however long those 30 plays take, whether it's in the first half, they get them all out in the first half, whether it goes late into the third quarter, no matter how long it takes, he's getting 30 plays Saturday, and then they'll move on to the next guy on the list.
Which is Sudfeld.
I would imagine it's Sudfeld. And a lot of people are getting high on Sudfeld and his performance. You have to acknowledge him. He had a good day today. Had some nice throws, had some nice situations, put the ball in some good spots. When he's trying to throw on the run, not as great. But when you're able to give him some time, he's able to sit in the pocket. He can put the ball in the right spot. Sometimes, like we said, right, he doesn't make the big, critical, crucial errors with his throws. The ball is either in a position where it's catchable or it's not.
He had that beautiful pass down the sideline to Travis Benjamin. Double coverage, just so everyone knows. There was double coverage there, and he literally pulled, he put it right there in the pocket. Now, it was going to be hard for Travis Benjamin to catch it because Travis Benjamin only had one hand to use. He was trying to reach out and make the catch, couldn't get it done. Would have been a tough catch. And Travis Benjamin actually looked pretty good today. He beat the defense deep a few times, including beating one to Jimmy. I think Jimmy got him on one. And there was another time Jimmy overthrew him, which made everyone in the crowd say, "Oh, wow, this reminds me of 2019.
I've seen that before.
And, it is, right? It's number 17, Travis Benjamin, running, and the ball thrown, 3 yards or 4 yards over his head. It did give that sort of feel.
Here's the problem I have, though, is that people got to pick a lane with Jimmy Garoppolo. Either he doesn't have the strong arm to make the throw, or, he can't. He's not good. He's not accurate. It's never the same argument when it comes to Jimmy and the deep ball. It's either Jimmy can't throw the deep ball or he just overthrows everybody. Well, if he can't throw the deep ball, he can't overthrow everybody. Can't be both of those things. Pick a lane in terms of what your criticism is. On that route too, I gotta say, it was against Jason Verrett. It was a stutter go on Jason Verrett. It was a nice route. He got Jason Verrett to bite hard on the comebacks, which Jason Verrett has been doing a lot of. He's been all over those. It was a down and distance situation too, where it was a first down on that throw. So it wasn't a situation where you're necessarily thinking they're going to go deep. So when he sold that stutter route, that hook route, that hitch coming back towards the ball, Verrett breaks and he's able to get upfield, and Jimmy just put it a little bit outside of his reach. But there was about 3 or 4 times today where Travis Benjamin got over the top. And then there was 2 or 3 different situations, right, where they set up little mini sort of screen looks with him. They weren't going full hard on the screen setup, but there were little screen situations. They got the ball out to Travis Benjamin in space short, and he was able to do some things with the football. Obviously, no tackling to the ground, so it's hard to know, how many of those tackles he maybe breaks, or how far he's able to actually take that play and go. But it's definitely obvious that Kyle Shanahan has a role for him that isn't just run vertical down the sideline, little guy, and go catch the ball.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna be used in a variety of different ways. He was going in motion. In fact, a lot of guys were going in motion today. You had Travis Benjamin, you had Jalen Hurd, you had Sherfield, you had Juwan Jennings, all of them going in motion. In fact, some of them even picking up reverses or fly sweeps. Juwan Jennings getting a fly sweep, Richie James getting a fly sweep. So Kyle was definitely opening up the playbook a little bit more than he had done on Tuesday when we watched before, where they didn't really put in these run plays. And early on in 11 on 11s, it was heavy run game. Really heavy run game, getting it going. And I think the guy that stood out, number one, that we had one of the best runs I've seen from Sherman.
Absolutely.
I thought he looked dynamic. He got to the line, he pressed the line of scrimmage, and then jump cut to the hole and got upfield. I thought that was really nice. And then the other running back that I thought had a good day. Well, Gallman looked good, of course, except for the missed catch out of the backfield. But
other than that,
he looked good running the ball again. But JaMychal Hasty, I thought, took a step forward today. He had a couple dynamic runs where he looked very good in the inside, making his moves. Once again, pressed to the line of scrimmage, makes his jump cut, and then accelerates. It looked really good. So those guys I thought looked good even in the run game.
Yeah, the run game looks great. It looks fine. I'm excited to see it live versus an opponent, right? I know we're probably not going to get a whole heck of a lot out of Raheem Mostert in week 1 either in this first preseason game, but we are going to get probably a heavy dose of Trey Sermon. We're going to get a nice heavy dose of Mr. Wayne Gallman. We're going to get a nice look at Elijah Mitchell. I think that's the one I'm the most excited about, is maybe seeing Elijah Mitchell run with the twos. Although, we got to talk about it, right? We got to talk about it a little bit. Guys who are operating in certain spots and in certain situations. I know people have been down on Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd was operating over and before Jawan Jennings with the second group.
He was.
So he was operating first, so he's a little bit higher on that depth chart. Right now, it kind of looks like you have Debo, Ayuk, and Sanu, kind of those top three guys. And then you have Sherfield, Benjamin, and Hurd operating in that next slot and next row of guys, followed behind by Benjamin, James.
No, you buy Richie James and Jawan Jennings.
Excuse me. Richie James, Jawan Jennings, and then after that you have your
River
Craycrafts, the Simba Walkers, and Austin Watkins.
And Craycraft got a little bit of time with the first team.
He did.
That play that he made, catching the ball on the slant where it goes in the window that Jimmy Garoppolo throws on a
Still
3rd and 8.
don't know how he got it in there.
He gets this ball into this really tight window. River Craycraft catches it and gets up the field. It did remind me of a play that you would have seen from, Emmanuel Sanders,
yes.
Right? It was something like that. That's what it really looked like. He got the ball, turned up field, got vertical quick, and then Craycraft was out as soon as he made the play. But it was nice to see that throw being made. But Craycraft was out there playing. He's not going away quietly. Craycraft's going to push. I'm curious if he actually has an opportunity. Let's see how he does in preseason. He's not a bad player.
No,
he runs good routes and he's out there playing. But another area where people are going to be surprised is Jalen Hurd was one heck of a blocker today.
Holy cow. He had the two plays that I remember vividly in my head. He helped set the edge for big runs for running backs around the outside. One of them was he was supposed to set the edge. The guy comes flying outside and he just kicks him out, and Mostert's able to basically cut up in the hole and make a big run.
Hasty.
It was Hasty, that's right.
Yeah. That was one of the special runs Hasty made. He cut right off of Jalen Hurd's block. And Jalen Hurd was sticking with blocks, which was nice to see. Somebody that's concerned about their back or knee is not going to block, with that kind of aggressiveness. So I thought that was at least a tail sign of how he's feeling, how he's doing. Overall, though, I thought that was a good sign. Jawan Jennings didn't execute as well as I wanted him today, but he didn't have that many opportunities as well.
He definitely got less reps today.
Yeah, he got less reps, and a lot of that could be because Jalen got more.
Correct.
So that was kind of hindering him. So, I'm sure we'll see a lot of Jawan Jennings in the preseason. I'm excited to see that because I think he has a lot of potential.
No, I agree with you. And that was still, I wanted to go back to that Craycraft thing because it's still, that throw, I remember I turned to you afterwards like, dude, how did he fit that in there? Because it looked like there was no window from the angle we were sitting at all whatsoever. In fact, when he threw it, I thought to myself, oh boy, there's a pick. That's a pick right there, and everyone's going to be feasting on that. And he fits it right into that window to Trent Sherfield, to River Craycraft. He went in for Sherfield. Sherfield had come off on that play. They put Craycraft in, and I thought to myself, is there any way that, because Craycraft went out to a side of the field in which he was singled up. He was singled up on Jason Verrett, and I was like, is there any way they're even considering going to that side at all whatsoever? It wasn't man coverage from Verrett. They were running a zone look, but they went to him in the window. He found the spot. Jimmy put it in the right spot and put some zip on it. Wasn't a high throw. It was right at his numbers. It was an incredible throw. One of Jimmy's best throws of the day, just in terms of the traffic, the velocity, getting it out on time, and in a spot where Craycraft could catch and continue to run afterwards.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of Jimmy's jumping off point. After that, he really hummed. I think before that he was a little shaky. Not great. He was. So
you mean James showed up for practice?
That's right. I kept saying he was James at first. He was playing like James, not like Jimmy. Eventually, Jimmy showed up, and there was a rhythm to what he was doing, and he was executing. But Craycraft also had a great catch down the sideline. It was on the far field, so we couldn't see it.
It's a 40-yarder.
Like, real good, but he made an outstanding catch. Whether he was inbounds or not, we don't know, but it was one fantastic catch.
Definitely looked like he was out of bounds. And I know a bunch of the DBs, Jimmy Ward especially, as soon as the play came down and they ruled it a catch, Jimmy Ward was all up in the practice official's face, pointing at the ground, pointing at the line, going, there's no way. There's no way he made that catch. Foot did not get in bounds, but it was nonetheless a great effort. It was incredible to see. It was incredible to watch. Good stuff by Mr. Craycraft, because that's always, this wide receiver group is continuing to grow and improve and get better. And so when you have those types of guys having performances like this in practice, it elevates that level of competition. It's going to continue to push guys like Hurd, guys like Trent Sherfield to continue to play at a high level. But two things to be watching or be at least concerned with that wide receiver group, right? Austin Watkins dealing with what looks like some sort of toe injury. He was going down there and grabbing at his toe very early in practice, and you can tell he's very hobbled, especially during warmups. He is pushing through it. He's fighting through it. He's working through it daily these last few practices, so you'll like to see those things. The second thing is the very, very quiet days from Richie James. We've seen him with drops. We've seen him, really not get targeted, not really be open. Today, he got bullied a little bit coming off the line in a few of his routes. He did not really put together anything on tape in camp that is impressive. It's going to be very interesting to see where he's operating, what he's doing with this team going into preseason. If anyone's stock is truly down in that wide receiver room, I would say it's Richie.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It hasn't been a good sign. He had opportunities on Tuesday to make plays, and he had the drops. So, I mean, you're kind of expecting him to have a bounce-back time. But I remember I asked you at one point if Richie James was playing. Is Richie James out there? And you said, oh, yeah, he's out there. I seen him. And sure enough, especially when they got closer, we were able to see him there on the far field. It was harder to tell. But he got over there, and he's playing. It's just he's not getting open. I mean, there's just not a lot of opportunities. The one time Trey Lance tried to go to him fast, and he ran a stop route, and the defender was just literally hugging him, just waiting because there was no separation, there was no push, there was no drive to get that corner to flip his hips and turn upfield, and the guy just sat on it. And it was, I mean, the play was over before it even got started. Trey just threw a pass that direction, but there was no chance of Richie James to catch it. And it's just one of those times where Trey's just trying to make something happen because nothing's there.
That's true. There was just really nothing there for Richie, and that was kind of the MO for him for a majority of the day. He just struggled. It's been the MO for the majority of training camp for Richie James. He has been struggling. He has not been doing too well. He's going to have to show something here in these preseason games. Now, luckily for him, you got Hurd that's not going to be playing in the Saturday preseason game against the Chiefs. So that's going to bump him up the roster, give him some opportunities to get a little bit more run against that second and third team defense of the Chiefs. We're just going to have to wait to see what happens and how he's being utilized. It's also going to be very interesting to see who's returning kicks and punts in those games.
He's going to have his opportunities.
Yeah, of course.
I think a lot of them are going to have their opportunities, but he's going to have to really grab the bull and really take over that job. He has to win that job, I think. That's very important to him making this 53-man roster. There's a lot of hard decisions to make with this group. I mean, you do not want to cut somebody that's going to make another roster. And, inevitably they're going to cut probably a couple that are going to make somebody else's team.
Accurate.
So they're going to have to figure this thing out. And he's going to have opportunities, especially through the punt game, punt return game. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it. I know in our 53 before training camp, we didn't think he was going to make the roster. And so far, he hasn't done anything to prove that he's going to make it.
Correct. He has done nothing. He's done nothing to make me, you, I would think most 49ers fans who have been at camp and been going to camp believe truly, without a shadow of a doubt, that this man is going to make this roster and earn his spot and earn his keep, because he just hasn't really shown much of anything. That being said, there are some guys who are having moments and having flashes and still putting together some decent days at camp. I'm liking what I'm seeing still out of Dante Johnson. He's looking pretty solid. He's looking pretty fantastic. Clinton Dix wasn't very out there very much today. He didn't look that great, though, when he was out there. I know there was a couple times where he got beat over the top and beat on a deep corner route that you just don't want to see those from him, and that's been kind of the concern with him, is coverage-wise he's been lacking a little bit. At the end of the day, too, the other guy that I thought had an okay day. They did all right. It was Ambry Thomas. He had some moments. He had some flashing moments on underneath routes. He seems to be doing pretty well on anything that's within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He doesn't struggle as much there. It's the over-the-top sort of intermediate stuff that he tends to struggle with a little bit.
I think he's shown improvement all through camp.
He has.
We've seen him 3 times now, and I thought that each time he's looked a little bit better and a little bit better. Same with Deommodore Lenoir.
Yes.
I think those guys are coming along nicely. Talanoa Hufanga coming along nicely. Aaron Banks, from what we saw Saturday to what we see now,
it's drastically better.
A lot of improvement. These guys are getting more comfortable with being, NFL football players, knowing what the scheme is and how they need to execute it, and they're doing a lot better. But I think this was to be expected. That's why it's hard to judge practice every time, right? You can't completely break down everyone's performances in practice, because then you leave no room for them to be able to grow. And these guys are growing, and they're going to get better. It's just how fast is it going to happen? Well, that is going to take a big leap when they get to play NFL competition on Saturday. All these guys' first NFL game, I'm sure there's some nerves, but they're going to get out there and they're going to be battling. And it's going to be fun to see how these guys respond to that, playing against another player, another team, going through their reads and everything that they need to go through. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited for it, because I think we do have some very talented players, and put in the right positions, they can make a lot of really good plays, and that's what we want to see. So Saturday's going to be fun.
Saturday's going to be a lot of fun. I saw someone that asked earlier about Dwelly. Dwelly's been fairly quiet. There hasn't been a lot Dwelly receiving wise. Honestly didn't pay as much attention to Dwelly today because we were more focused on some of the receiver positions in the receiver group, and we were really focused on Jalen Hurd. I'm still seeing flashes from Charlie Warner here and there where he is looking very, very good in the pass game. He is getting himself available on crucial down and distances, third down, second downs, short, whatever it is. Charlie Warner is getting open. And Trey Lance trusts Charlie Warner. Trey Lance has put the ball in some tight windows to Charlie Warner, and Charlie Warner brings that ball down. Dwelly did have a touchdown catch today I think it was in the red zone. So he is having moments and having flashes, but again, it's Dwelly like flashes, right? It's usually not huge, big plays off the top. That's not what his strength is. But I can tell you what, the run game for the second unit has been getting better. He is going to have an impact in that performance as well. So again, nothing Dwelly has done has stood out and blown my mind, but he's not having a bad camp.
Yeah, Steven asked, compared to last year, how does Dante Johnson look? I have no faith in him from his past performances. He just looks clean. He looks comfortable. He looks aggressive. Mm-hmm. He's jumping routes. I think he looks like a very seasoned vet that is able to play under control now. He doesn't get beat, and if he does, it's not consistently. It looks like he's always on his guy or near his guy. Pretty good coverage. He was bailing early. He's doing what he's supposed to do. So overall, he just looks like a guy that's very seasoned, a guy that has some ability. But I think we all thought this guy was going to be one of the last corners, that possibly either made the team or was gone. And I think right now, the way it stacks out, he's the first guy behind Mosley and Verrett.
I agree with you there. B.W. Webb with Shark out today was manning that slot spot, that nickel spot. He looked pretty gosh darn good. I was actually really impressed. Granted, you got this D-line in this front that you have, that's right, so that can take away some of the maybe other areas where you lack, but you don't need, we've talked about this, right? If you have the elite front four that you have and the front seven that you have, let's just be realistic and honest here, your back-end corners and safeties and things of that nature don't have to necessarily be elite in order for you to have a lot of success. Luckily for the 49ers, you do have one guy on one side of the field in Jason Verrett that is elite. He's fantastic. He can lock down one area and one half of the field all on his own. True. So now you have a situation where you can be a little bit more aggressive and take some more chances as a corner on those spots because your D-line is going to get pressure. B.W. Webb has been taking advantage of that because the two, I saw him with two pass breakups during two different situations, but the big one was on our side of the field during an 11-on-11 team drill they were doing. I think it was either the 2-minute drill or it was during one of the move the ball sessions in the situationals where there was an out breaking hitch. It looked like a rail, and he broke on it hard, and the ball came. It was a decently thrown ball, and he got his hands on it and was able to break up that pass. And it was like, okay, this guy getting an opportunity with Shark having a day off, right? Shark not out there, getting his chance, making the most of it, not giving up a big play or a big completion.
Yeah, let's see how the reps in practice and in training camp translate to the games. I think some of these guys are stacking good performances. They're going to lead to good performance on Saturday against the Chiefs. But that's where you really have to make your name for yourself, right? You're stacking these things, but the game is a part of that situation. These guys are going to be out there trying to prove it. For some of these guys, it's a big-time game because it's their first NFL game ever. So there's a lot of emotion that's going to go into it. Plus, all these guys are trying to put out good film just in case. You brought up Webb. I mean, we just talked about Dante Johnson. We talked about Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas. Who is going to be the backups? Because I don't know if they're going to keep 6 corners on this roster. And if they're keeping 5, they're cutting some very good players. And, hopefully not one of these rookies who I think we're still high on and think they can develop, Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas. But there's going to be some hard cuts there because some of these guys are playing pretty well. I don't know how much of that has to go completely into the defensive line right now because I think the top 2 guys are really good. And then I think there is a fall off that we could get better at. But it is an interesting topic of conversation, interesting position to watch because I think some people still think it is a weakness. I'm one of those people that think it's a weakness in depth. Not a weakness with the starters, but a weakness in depth.
It is definitely a weakness in depth. And it's one of those things where you don't want to have to rely on your 2 rookies right now. Right? You don't want to have to rely on them to make big plays at this point in time, at this moment. But you may have to.
Yeah.
Also, do you want to keep one of those wily vets that you got in Webb or Dante Johnson over one of these guys potentially? That's a risk because the potential for these 2 is very, very high. And we've seen the development so far through the 3 days that we've been there and from all reports, right? The 13 days of camp that they've had, they have been getting better. They have been doing better. And while while Diamond Lenore, we both think he still may be a guy who plays in the slot. They may be getting him reps right now on the outside just as a development thing, right? It could just be that they want to see him out there a little bit more right now than they do on the interior. Maybe they have less concerns about him on the interior.
You would think they'd give him some reps in practice in the interior, though. And he's got none. The ones that have been getting the reps are K1 Williams, Webb, and Dante Johnson. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys we've seen working there. It was Fields before Fields got cut. So they haven't really done a whole lot with Diamond Lenore in the slot. And if he's not going to play there, which I think we all thought he was, that means he's on the outside. So unless they decide to keep these two rookies, which ultimately you would think they would, there's not a lot of room for another veteran corner. You got K1, you got Mosley, you got Verrett, and then you got these two rookies. These other guys ain't going to be able to make the team. So it's going to be a tough battle there for that last spot. Maybe they end up keeping 6. I don't think they do.
No, I'd be shocked.
But so they're going to cut some pretty, guys who've had pretty good performances here in training camp.
That's going to be the same thing with the D line, because the D line has been looking very, very solid for the majority of camp and looks solid yet again today. And they're not going to be able to keep all of those guys. All of those guys are not going to be able to stay on this roster. So there are going to be some guys that get cut loose that are going to go on to make some other NFL roster somewhere and take up a spot for another team. Whether that's the Yarboroughs of the world, whether that's the Givens or the Streets of the world. I mean, who knows? I don't know the situation with Jordan Hillis in terms of whether or not he takes up a roster spot or not, Mr. Willis, but he's looked great also.
Jordan Willis looks fantastic. He's putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback off the edge. He's working hard, but you're right. He's going to start on the suspension, with a suspension, a 6-game suspension. So,
luckily for him, he's got 11 games left.
He does, and hopefully he plays well in those games. He was somebody they were high on last year when they brought him in. Didn't get any sort of offseason with the 49ers. Now he's getting it. Hopefully it pays off because he was very talented in college. I mean, he had a lot of success rushing the passer. It didn't translate to the NFL just in the situations that he was in. But maybe he fits the 49ers scheme. You've seen this with the 49ers before. You bring somebody in that maybe he's playing out of position. You put him into this wide 9 that Chris Kasarik has. You kind of strip down what they're supposed to do. There's not so many responsibilities. These guys are able to play free and penetrate. And when they are, then they make plays. So it could be good for Jordan Willis. Hopefully he gets to stay around this team because I'd love to see him on this roster. So I think he could really pay off as we get farther into the season.
Agreed. I definitely agreed. And I've seen a couple people, Gary talking about it, Steven here talking about it, Jason Verrett being better than Uncle Sherm. If we're talking about Uncle Sherm, as in 2019, 2018, 2020 Uncle Sherm, then yes, Jason Verrett as it currently is constituted is better than that version of Richard Sherman. Prime Richard Sherman, he's still got some stuff that he's got to prove. The longevity needs to be there because Sherm did it at a high level for a very long time. But Sherm has always been more of a zone kind of coverage guy. That's been his strength. When you've asked him to have to man up a little bit more, not so much his strength, not the thing that he is as successful with. Jason Verrett is definitely better kind of all around, maybe not as great as Sherman in the zone aspect of coverage, but if you're asking the two of them to play man up, even in their primes, Jason Verrett might have Richard Sherman's number 9 out of 10 times.
Where he does have his number is in versatility.
Correct.
Richard Sherman can't play inside. Jason Verrett can. Richard Sherman can't play press man very well. Jason Verrett can. So if you're telling me he's a little bit weaker in the zone game, but he's better in those areas, then 100% he's already better. This guy could travel anywhere you want with the number 1 receiver. That receiver's in the slot, Jason Verrett can be in the slot. That guy's outside, he can be outside. There's really nowhere he can't go and still be able to cover. That's what you wanted. That's why they got this flexibility with him and Emmanuel Mosley, where now they can play zone and they can play man, and that was important. With Richard Sherman, you kind of knew what you were going to get, and when they ran man, it put him in a bad spot, and it was really highlighted. And that's what you're looking to do when you're trying to build a secondary, build a team. So these guys are really good, and right now Jason Verrett is the best corner on the team. We'll see how he stacks up against the rest of the league, but I think he's got potential to be a Pro Bowler, maybe even an All-Pro, depending on how he executes. The injuries appear to be behind him. If they're behind him, he's healthy, he's 100%. He's going to go out there and tear it up.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And there was some interesting stuff that happened during the 2-minute drill stuff. There was a nice completion from Mr. Trey Lance. I believe it was to Ross Dwelley. That was that touchdown.
The touchdown was to Ross Dwelley.
It was
he got up the seam, yeah.
Got up the seam, but they marked him down at the 6 is what they reported. That's what the officials came out and marked it at, and everyone was a little confused, and it was funny watching people like, well, no, that was a touchdown easily. And it's like, well, yeah, it was definitely a touchdown, but they definitely want Trey Lance working on getting the ball over the middle of the field like that. If it doesn't end up in the end zone, getting up, spiking the ball, and getting through your rep and taking the extra reps, right? Not just blowing through the 2-minute drill and you made a big play and that's great, but working on the situationals, because Kyle talked about it in his presser a little bit and Trey talked about it in his presser. He hasn't had a lot of those types of situations. He hasn't get to work on a lot of those types of situations. And Kyle jokingly said, most of the games in colleges, they were up big. So he never had to work on those situations. Yeah. So they're going to take advantage of those times and opportunities to work on it. I just thought it was funny watching people confused. Like, that was definitely a touchdown. Why are they lining back up? And it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a touchdown. But they definitely want this kid to work, get the reps, put himself in those environments, in those situations where the clock's ticking, the clock's winding down. You got to get up, get this group right up, ready to go, and executing. I think the whole team was just kind of caught off guard because I don't think they thought touchdown on that play. I think they thought a big catch from Dwelley and maybe like just getting brought down there, and then them having to get up and clock it with about, I think when Dwelley got into the end zone, there was about maybe 10, 12 seconds left. Yeah, there was not a lot of time left, so they wanted to get up and clock it, and they weren't able to do it in time. That's because everyone was busy celebrating.
Yeah, they just wanted him to go through that action, do it with that center, that group, personnel group. They wanted him to go up there and get used to, rushing to the ball, spiking it, making sure everyone's set. It's a good thing. You want these guys to have to practice and do what they're going to do in the game, so you just wanted him to be prepared for it. It didn't make a lot of sense at the time because you seen Dwelley score the touchdown, but it was quickly saw that, the reason they did it is because they wanted him to have to, spike the ball and really kill it, but they would have done this at some point. That was their whole plan, right? They wanted to have plays that ended with a timeout. They wanted to have plays that ended over the middle, so you'd have to spike it and learn to manage the clock, to keep everyone calm, to give directions. So that way you can make sure they know what formation, what play you're in. All that stuff was important, and still recognizing, the blitz is coming here. I need to hit this hot route, or, I need to help the protection over here. Running back needs to switch sides. Whatever it is, you're trying to get these guys ready and able to handle it, and that's why they went through this with Trey Lance. It's just them, dotting their I's and all that stuff and crossing their T's and making sure they take care of business. So it's nice to see. Yes, I can see why it would be confusing to fans. Not everyone has been a coach or understands, the coaching perspective and why they're doing that. It was obviously a touchdown to Ross Dwelley.
It was obviously a touchdown. And Steven talked about Trey's been putting up incredible numbers. The numbers are hard to really judge what is what. And we kind of wanted to get into this a little bit because we've seen some number stuff from certain people putting Trey in the 70% completion percentage category, and it just doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. And then you look at some of the numbers in terms of actual attempts and completions, and we got reporters that are drastically different in terms of the number of completions, actual completions, and yet their attempts are very, very close. I'm talking within like 4 to 5 passes of each other. I saw one that had him at 70% with like 153 completions, or 153 attempts, attempted passes. And someone else had him at around a 62% completion percentage and having thrown 157 passes. So he had them throwing 4 more passes, but completing significantly less passes in order to get the percentages. There is one guy that we kind of have been looking at the stuff that he's been putting out and trusting, and that's Lombardi. And that's because he has a full spreadsheet breakdown of the entirety of it. He has put it out in its entirety, and I'm putting a link to it right now, so hopefully you guys can go check that out and see it. It is in there in chat right now. But he has broken down everything from red zone splits to move the ball, basic splits, 2-minute drill. Everything is color coordinated and just really emphasized. It's very, very, very specific in terms of notes. And there's even notes in terms of like bad throws, good throws, things of that nature on the side. He has the completion percentages in total at Jimmy Garoppolo completing 63.5% of his passes, throwing 4 picks. Trey Lance completing 63.1% of his passes, 2 picks. Sudfeld completing 64% of his passes, no picks. And Josh Rosen at 54.8% with 2 interceptions. We are relying on those stats, 1, because we've been at some of the days where he's put these stats up, and 2, the specificity of the breakdown, breaking it into chunks, broken it into sections of practice. That way, too, for us, when you're looking at those numbers, right, Ant, if you're able to take what you saw and then look at the numbers as well, you're able to correlate some things. There are areas where we feel Trey has struggled and areas where we feel like Trey has succeeded, right? Short down situations, red zone situations, we feel Trey has succeeded. And when you look at the numbers in the red zone, Trey Lance has looked absolutely incredible. When you look at the move the ball situations where they have long fields and long things to go, Trey has struggled a little bit more, only completing 46% of his passes. So there is some variety there. I know everyone's reporting different things. These are the numbers that we kind of feel are a little more accurate to what has actually been going on at camp. And the best part about him is it's very transparent.
Yeah. Before I get into that, I seen Ron ask a question about, playing time and stuff like that. I just want to say, Trey is going to play Jimmy's going to play the first series. Trey is going to play, the rest of the first half, at least 30 plays. And if he doesn't get 30 snaps, it's going to go into the third quarter. Then you are going to see Sudfeld, more than likely, and then Rosen. Because of the way it's breaking down, you'll probably get to see Rosen. If Trey plays into the third quarter, you probably won't see Rosen. But then now we'll get into this. I'm not a huge fan of numbers in training camp.
I'm aware.
I don't like breaking down completion percentage because just because it's an 11 on 11s, you don't know what they're working on. There's no context to it. So a lot of times, just like today, they're running hots, right? So if both quarterbacks aren't successful, it brings their completion percentage down. Most of this time, this is designed for them to have a struggle to be successful. These are not situations where the coach is going out there and putting you in the best situation to be successful. They want you to have to make reads and make tough throws, and some of them aren't there. Plus, they're not always working with the number ones. Like Trey hasn't worked with the number one receivers all the time. Sometimes he does. Jimmy Garoppolo had times he wasn't working with number ones either. So there's some of that that's just too much. I think what I took from it the most is I like to look at it kind of in totality just to find if there's areas of concern that need to be worked on. Jimmy Garoppolo struggling in the red zone.
Yep.
That if you look overall, his numbers are a struggle in the red zone. That means when there's not as much space, when everything gets more compacted, the horizontal game is not as successful. Where that's where he's the best, right? Over the middle is not as successful, and that's where he's the best. So the red zone is something he's going to have to clear up. When it comes to Trey Lance, like you said, it's the long drives. It's moving the ball, staying on the field. He's completed like something like 40% of his passes in some of those situations, which is not good, but he's a rookie. And I think that those numbers are completely skewed because when he first started, everything was scripted. Every play was known beforehand. Correct. He knew what his reads were. He knew what personnel grouping he was going to have out there, and they went out there and they executed. When you get into move the ball situations, now you're going on what the down and distance is, what the defensive personnel grouping is. Everything is, determining what play call is coming. So now Trey was having to think on his feet as far as, Kyle's calling this play. Before that, he knew, this play's coming next. I know what I have to do. Now he had a play call that he had to communicate, then remember what it was, then read the defense. It is normal growing pains. So finding these areas is the only thing I look at with these stats. I could care less what their completion percentage is. And are we really going to get into this? The fact that Trey Lance has a little over 2% better completion percentage than Jimmy Garoppolo.
It's roughly that.
Yeah, it's really semantics at this point. It's whatever, but that stuff doesn't matter.
It's actually not even that. It's 63.5 for Jimmy and 63.1 for Trey, so they're basically the same. It to me that stuff just doesn't matter. I think you look at the other areas. Jimmy needs to work on his red zone. Trey needs to work on just getting used to running this offense, the ins and outs of switching plays, knowing what to do situational, and all those things he's going to learn in the preseason. So that's the only thing I take from. I could care less about the rest. And that's why I like the breakdown from Lombardi, because it gives you insight into things that we both, based on what we had seen, you look at the numbers and you go, okay, this makes sense based on what we were seeing, because when Trey is having bad days in terms of percentages and completions, if you look at where he struggled the most, it's during the unscripted move the ball drill sessions, and it's even written down in the notes section on it too. I liked that aspect of it, and it's also for us, for me anyway, being able to take something that we watched and then be able to correlate that to numbers and look at the numbers and be able to go, okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm seeing, where do things match up and where do things not match up, and then because of its diversity and how much it's broken down, okay, well, I felt he was struggling in these areas. You look, okay, there's some struggles there on paper as well. I'm one of those types of guys. I like being able to take what I see and be able to put that into some sort of data that I can read. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a perfect representation of it, but it helps me organize it in my head. That's why I liked it. I liked it as much as I did. But you're not wrong on anything that you just said in regards to Trey Lance's struggles and Jimmy's struggles. These are the things that we've been saying. And Jack had just asked, did he feel that overall the team did better, the offense did better in red zone drills? Yes, because Trey Lance had days where he was ridiculously successful, 4 for 4 with 4 touchdowns on one of those days, where every throw was a touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo has had to step up a little bit. So he has had days where he's had good days, and then he's had days where he's had bad days and tried to force some balls and force some things. And Jimmy's even said as much, right? The pick 6 against Emmanuel Mosley the Tuesday that we were there, he talked about in the presser afterwards, like a day or two later, essentially, hey, I know it's 4th down. I know I have to make a play. There's 6 seconds left. We got to win the game. So I made a throw that I probably won't make in the game and shouldn't make in the game, and now I know I'm not going to make that throw in the game.
Yeah, and I think Trey has been fantastic in the red zone. Trey has looked really good. I think we always thought that Trey was going to have some potential snaps in the red zone this year, and I think he's going to. He excels in those situations. The threat of him running is what gives you the advantage as an offense inside the red zone. With Jimmy, everything's horizontal, so they can come up on you. They can really press these guys and tighten down the hatches and make it hard for you to be able to score. When you have Trey Lance out there, somebody has to account for him. If you don't, he's going to run the ball for a touchdown. That person accounting a lot of times makes it harder for you to be able to cover everyone. So it opens up possibilities in the run game, in the pass game. So there is a kind of a normal way that he's better, right? That just makes him better because he has different tools that he can use inside the red zone. It's not like Jimmy can't get it done. It's just Trey can get it done at a different level inside the red zone. Also, a lot of times the red zone offense is very small and compact as far as the amount of plays that you have to learn and be able to operate in. So he'll have a better grip on those. So I think it's definitely very conceivable that we're going to see both of these guys in the red zone, and Trey Lance probably more in the red zone than we thought we were ultimately going to see when he was drafted. But it's coming because he does operate very well there, and that's something that's going to be very evident as we go through the season, and then later on in his career, it's going to just get better and better.
Correct. And Ron had asked, how much is Jimmy playing? How much is Trey playing? Jimmy's going to be playing a series on Saturday. Trey is getting 30 snaps, folks, 30 snaps. So Kyle said the entire first half, but then he clarified and wanted to make sure everyone understood it's going to be 30 snaps. So whether that gets completed in the first half, whether that goes into the third quarter, it'll be 30 snaps for Trey Lance at the quarterback spot before they move on to somebody else. Jalen Hurd and D Ford are both out. They will not be playing this Saturday, so you won't see any D Ford. You won't see any Jalen Hurd. That really sucks.
Probably won't see Nick Bosa.
Probably not going to see Bosa.
I don't think
either.
there's official word, but he didn't practice today. So
no, he took the day off as well. He was getting a nice little rest of that minimum days, as was Kinlaw. I don't expect to see a lot of our first team D line going out there because, in all honesty, they really have nothing to prove. Nick Bosa still looks elite and better than everyone else out there when he is out there and doing stuff in drills, whether that's one-on-ones versus the bags, whether it's get-offs against the sled. Nick Bosa is one of the first guys and fastest guys off the line in every one of those drills. D Ford, you're going to be safe with. There's no reason to put him out there. I know he probably would love to run out there against the Chiefs and get a rep or two and get 1 sack on Patrick Mahomes. He probably would absolutely love that, but it's preseason. You don't need it. It's really not that important. Javon Kinlaw, not important that he gets a big run. Eric Armstead, not important that he gets a big run. You want to keep all of these guys healthy. All of them have been dealing with a little bit of something, right? So this weekend, probably won't see a lot of them, which is fine because we get to now a great look at the rest of these guys, the rest of the twos, the rest of the threes. Our twos potentially getting to go up against the Chiefs ones, so you can get a really good look at them and how talented they are. And our threes going against the Chiefs twos. So again, getting a challenge, getting a push, and just seeing how deep this D-line group actually is.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to get a good look at Mo Hurst, and see what he can do on the interior. That's going to be exciting to watch because he's been making a lot of plays. We get to see if Kevin Givens can step up and do something. Started out really strong early in camp and has kind of faded away a little bit. Kentavious Street's been playing well. There's all these names that but they have to go out there and prove it. This defensive line is so deep. These guys want to play so that way they can get out there and put film out there. Just in case they're cut and don't make this team, they can land somewhere else because there's so much talent. They could be playing and starting all over this league. So that is one thing that's going to be fun to watch is that defensive line because there's just so many different personalities, so many different ways that they do it. Zach Kerr is fun. I don't know if people know about Kerr, but he's so fun. He's always dancing around, having a good time, and he's a big hoss, and he gets in there and he makes plays and really clogs the middle of the defense. So Watching that Kansas City run game against this defensive line, especially the times that you get, Kerr and those big guys in there, Mo Hurst, it's going to be interesting. Mo Hurst will be very familiar with Kansas City, so will Arden Key. How is that Kansas City new offensive line going to hold up against these guys? It's exciting. There's a lot of great storylines. I think we're just excited for 49ers football because we love it, but there is a lot of great storylines coming out of this.
100%. Jag asked, do you expect Hurst and Arden Key to play a lot Saturday?
I think Hurst will play a lot. I don't know about Arden Key because he just had the leg contusion. Kyle said he was, more day-to-day and probably just, be able to rest up and be fine, but we'll see. He said he was close, that he could have went today if it was a game or something like that. So hopefully he will get to play. And if he does, I want to see a lot of reps from him. And I think people should want to see reps from Eddie Yarborough as well.
Yes.
Because he's been showing out at camp. He's actually, in my opinion, made me forget about Alex Verrett, and I was kind of excited about that guy coming into the season. But this guy's kind of ascended to that role. So there's going to be names you know and names you don't know from this defensive line.
Very, very accurate. There's going to be a lot. I'm really excited to see Street in action. I'm excited to see Givens in action. They're going to need to. Street's going to need to take all the things that he did well during these 13 days of camp and translate it into a game. Because you and I have a sneaking suspicion that Maurice Hurst is going to have himself some nice reps on Saturday. He has looked really, really good in practice the last few days that we've been there. He's been building here and almost climbing to a peak right now. He's really kind of flying under the radar. Some people I've heard some people rumblings about, he's looked like the best guy in camp and the best guy on the field at times. At times, yes, but I will say that he has gotten better each and every day, and this last week at camp especially has been one of his better weeks that he's put together so far. I'm excited to see what he looks like out there, but Yarborough, man, I just want to see him rolling live against someone else where he gets to try and hit a quarterback, because he's been able to get to the quarterback. He's been able to get his hands up and knock some balls down. He has shown a lot of different things and a lot of different positive attributes that he could add to this defensive line. Now we get to see it live in a game against, maybe, who knows, if they are for sure going to leave Patrick Mahomes out there for a full quarter, then you may get to see Yarborough running against the ones for a little bit, and that'll be exciting.
Yeah, it could happen. I think that Hurst really showed out on Saturday in the practice game. He made Banks look kind of,
not
bad.
good.
It wasn't good. The one thing I'll say is Banks has bounced back in a big way and played a lot better. But Hurst looked good on Tuesday, and then when we were there today, Hurst looked good again. Not as dynamic as he did Saturday, and a lot of that's because Banks has improved. Banks has gotten a lot better, a lot comfortable. Everything's making more sense to him. But yeah, Hurst is showing that this rotation is going to be nasty up front. DJ, Kerr, him, Givens, even they were even throwing in Darion Daniels at times, and he was making plays. You have Armstead, he can slide in. So there's just so many options for this defensive line. They're fantastic. It's going to be fun to watch. I know I say fun to watch a lot because it's just like that's what it was like today. It's just you're sitting there and you're watching all these players. You're seeing them make plays and they're executing at a high level. How many times did we see, like they ran one play, it stood out to me the most, is they ran a pitch outside and JaMychal Hasty looked like he was going to get the corner. And Fred Warner's flowing downhill, and all of a sudden you see out of nowhere somebody come flying across the line of scrimmage and would have absolutely just catered JaMychal Hasty. It was Dre Greenlaw. He found his window, he got downhill, and he got through there, and he's going to make a huge play on it. And I was like, oh, yeah, here we go. This is football time. Dre's ready to hit. Dre's ready to make plays. But those are the kind of things that excite me because it's guys doing things the right way.
That's right, and that's what you want to see from your linebacking core. That's what you want to see from this defense. You want to see them executing and getting to the right spots. If they're doing those things and getting to the right areas and able to find their lanes and attack downhill, that's going to help lead to success because it's going to take situations in which a running back maybe has
my mic died.
Uh-oh, Ant's mic died. That's not good at all. I hope that's not the case. Ant's going to work on it and take a look at it real quick. But
hold it 1 second, Alex. Can you guys hear us now?
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. All right, it looks like it's all good back here. I can see it registering on there. But look, back to what we were saying and back to kind of the things we were talking about. When we're talking about this linebacking group, this D-line group, one of the big concerns with this defense has been run stopping and stopping that run, especially the vertical run game. I'm looking forward to seeing this linebacking group kind of trying to build on it, right? Trying to build on the improvements and doing those things. So I'm looking forward to seeing Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner out there. I'm looking to see the rest of these guys, right? Marcel Harris, getting him a full look in a full preseason game with that second unit at the linebacker spot. I want to see it. I want to see Hufanga out there stepping up in the run game and helping. Tavon Wilson, the creative ways they've been using him against the pass. There was a couple blitzes today where he came off scot-free. And if Jimmy isn't able to find a guy, right, or the quarterback's not able to find his hot route quick enough, it's not going to be fun for the quarterback.
Thanks, Jay Ellie, for the heads up on that, too.
Appreciate it.
We do appreciate that. Yes, Tavon Wilson came off the outside. Jimmy had no idea he was coming from the backside. He was unaccounted for. Luckily for Jimmy, he has a quick release and he got rid of the ball before Wilson got there. But, yeah, that would have been absolutely bad. The way DeMeco Ryans is using these safeties and linebackers to blitz has been very creative. And he hasn't even put the full-fledged game plan in. He's just kind of toying with it right now. They're just giving different looks to the offense. I can only imagine what it's going to look like when we get into the regular season. Of course, when we play Kansas City, you're going to see a watered-down version of this 49ers defense. So it won't be too big of things. But I think that it's going to be exciting to see what DeMeco Ryans ultimately puts together for Detroit. I don't think we'll see the full defensive game plan until then. Other than that, we might see a few occasional blitzes, but they're going to keep it simple. Let these guys play the base defense. Let them read and react, make tackles, and see where they need to improve, and really grade these guys on their techniques and their skills, and not so much the scheme showing through.
Absolutely, it's going to be interesting to just watch this defense, how it develops and how it grows throughout the year. Because DeMeco Ryans, as he gets more comfortable and as the group gets more comfortable with his scheme, his calls, and what they're trying to do and accomplish. Right, those types of things are going to end up getting more dynamic, more diverse. I mean, he's already been fairly creative in practice, and it hasn't even been like super over the top or crazy. It's a walking guys down. They had one point today where they were showing a look. I talked about it. I said it. It looked like they were getting ready to run cover 2.
Yeah.
And then very, very quickly they shifted down, and Tavon Wilson came flying downhill and basically running into a bump and run man with it looked like George Kittle. And they're being aggressive. They're being assertive. This defense is not like last year. This isn't last year's defense where you got guys just sitting in zone and wanting to get back in space and just not doing a whole lot and giving up a lot of underneath stuff. This team is going to press. They're going to attack. They're going to be aggressive on defense, and you love to see that.
Yeah, 100% you do. And I seen Ron asked a question. He said, which running back do you guys most want to see on Saturday? I think that for me, the guy I most want to see is Wayne Gallman.
Yeah.
There's something intriguing about him. I think we've heard a lot of hype about Trey Sherman, and I think Trey Sherman is going to be great. But I want to see Wayne Gallman operate in this offense. After watching a lot of the film of him in New York last year, I thought that he was very, very good in the red zone, but he was also very good at getting through his hole and then ending up coming out the other side and being able to make a big play. Now, he doesn't have the explosive run ability of Elijah Mitchell or Raheem Mostert. This guy's going to get ran down, but he's going to get chunk yardage on plays. And I want to see how he operates inside this 49ers offense because I think his unique running style fits very well with what Kyle Shanahan does. To me, he would make a lot of sense in this system. And so I want to see him play. And I mean, as far as all of them, I'll be watching all the running backs just because it intrigues me a lot. But I think that is one of the main ones that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Gallman definitely. I want to see Elijah Mitchell going up against this Kansas City defense. No matter if it's the 3s, the 4, whoever it is that he's going up against, I want to see him out there. I want to see him catching the football. I want to see him running outside. I want to see him running inside. I want to see the contact balance. I want to see his vision because all of those things have looked really, really good in camp. Yeah. I want to see it against an opponent now. I want to see him executing against an opponent. I want to see this O-line executing against a defense that isn't their own. I want to see that. I want to see that aspect from him. I want to see that dynamic. I want to see him catching the ball out of the backfield and the unique ways that they'll utilize him. I think you will see times when Trey Lance is out there potentially. If it's a third down situation, maybe you don't see Gallman out there and they'll let Elijah Mitchell get a couple of reps with that second group just for pass catching situations and things of that nature. Gallman did have a drop today. That's the first time I've seen him drop a pass all camp long. Trey Sherman has struggled in the pass catching game. And so if you're going to go away from Mostert very early and you're going to go heavy, right, with Trey Sherman and Wayne Gallman with that second group, I would imagine you're going to see a little sprinkle of Elijah Mitchell in there with them and a lot of Elijah Mitchell with the third string.
Well, you might even see JaMycal Hasty because that's who was getting some second-team reps today. Hasty was kind of leading the way, the second unit. There's Trey Sherman was getting some, but he mainly works with the ones. So you might see some of that. We've seen Elijah Mitchell work with the twos. We've seen JaMycal Hasty work with the twos. We've seen Wayne Gallman work with the twos. They're all getting a fair shake, and we're going to see how it shakes out overall and how they build this running back room. It's interesting. It really is because they all have different skill sets. They all have different things that they do well, and some of these guys are going to rise, and some of them are not. Mitchell's dynamic athleticism really shows up when he makes his cut. He's a one cut and go guy. He's a slasher, is what I call running backs like that. I think a lot of people refer to him like that, and that's how I see him. Where you got Trey Sherman, who is more balanced as far as he stays square all the time. It's a little bit of a different running style. Wayne Gallman as well is more similar to Trey Sherman. I think those guys are similar. And then Elijah Mitchell and Raheem Mostert are more similar in their running style, not their speed, not their physicality, but their running style. And then JaMycal Hasty, I think, is in kind of a world of his own, where he does a little bit of both. He's not overly a slasher. He's not a guy that presses line of scrimmage and gets those jump cuts going all the time. So it is a little bit of a different thing. So how it shakes out is part of the fun, and it's going to be determined by how they play on the field now in preseason. They're going to get their carries. I'm sure there's going to be a nice rotation. If you don't see guys get carries in game one, they're going to get them in game two because they want to give all these guys a fair shake and a fair look.
Yeah, that's true. Luke Luna, are you guys concerned with Hurd possibly not playing preseason, apparently? Because I am. If this dude can't play through the preseason, there's no need for him on this team or at all.
No. I'm not concerned. I said this the other day when I was kind of irritated with the whole Jalen Hurd not showing up for practice and not going through it, and what Kyle was saying, that he's running out of time. Is if this was the plan for him not to play the first preseason game, then it wasn't the plan. And maybe it wasn't the plan for him to play. It wasn't the plan for D Ford. He's practiced every single day.
I was expecting to see I thought we were going to see a little bit of D Ford this weekend just based on the fact that the last few practices we've been at, he's been suited up and ready to go.
Now, if Jalen Hurd doesn't play any preseason games, he's not playing for this football team this year.
Correct.
The only other way that would happen is if they put him on IR, the PUP list, or something else where he could come back. So that if that happened, that means he's not healthy. He's not all the way healthy. But if he's going to be on this roster week one, he's going to be playing in preseason games. You would think week 2 against the Chargers, and then ultimately week 3 he'll play, and he'll play against the Raiders in Las Vegas. And if that doesn't happen, then he's probably not going to make this roster. He's going to start on the PUP or the injured reserve, depending on how he's designated.
I don't think that's going to be the case though at all. I'll tell you what, the way he looked today and the things he did today. He looked fine. He looked great. He looked like he still has a lot of the speed. His big thing right now is just condition and body conditioning and body being able to withstand a pounding and the beating, doing it consistently. When they were in 2-minute drills, he was struggling a little bit when he had to go rep by rep by rep by rep by rep, one after another, one after another, one after another. But he was still able to get separation. He was still able to make catches, make big plays. He took a nasty shot there from Talanoa Hufanga on a situation when Hufanga even pulled up, tried not to take him to the ground and really tried to keep Jalen Hurd up in space. And Jalen Hurd took that shot, got right back up to the line of scrimmage, lined back up, and then immediately caught another pass and turned it around and took it to Hufanga immediately after that. I am not as concerned about his durability right now just because I think he's had plenty of time to rest and be ready to recover. It's just where his mental is at. Where is his head out on a day-in, day-out basis after days like this? He's going to have Friday off, he's going to have Saturday off, and then he's going to be able to try and put together a nice week and string of practice against the Chargers leading into that second preseason game. If he is able to get through those practices and then he's not playing the next preseason game, whether that's by Kyle's, admission, whether he doesn't want him playing, or whether it's Hurd not being able to go physically, that's when I'll have a little bit of a concern because I would be absolutely shocked if Kyle doesn't want to get him in and get at least 2 games of film on Hurd in the preseason.
If he's practicing against the Chargers next week,
he's playing.
He's playing in that game, 100%. Minus there being some sort of a setback, and if there's some sort of a setback, then he's going on one of these lists. That's just the way it is. But I honestly think he's gonna get it done. He's gonna go in there. He's gonna play, for practice against the Chargers, and then he's ultimately gonna play in the game. And then we'll get to see him with those twos and see his chemistry with Trey Lance and see how he does, in this offense again. See if he's knocked off the rust from 2019. from what we saw, he's doing very good. He looks a lot like the 2019 Jalen Hurd. In fact, he looks faster, looks a little bit quicker in and out of his breaks. People that said he was cooked, you spoke a little too soon. He's not cooked.
Way too soon.
Yeah, way too soon. He's definitely not cooked. The talent is there. The separation, he can get separation when needed. He's a good player. It's always been health. It has always been health. And from what we saw today, he's healthy. At least healthy enough to get out there and compete. I'm sure this was probably the decision they had made early on. This was probably always the plan for him not to play this preseason game. And hopefully the plan is for him to play in the second one.
I hope that's the case. I really do. I want to see him out there. I want to see him going. It was great to see him out there today. It was very exciting to see him out there today. And he got a bigger run because there was no Debo out there taking reps in that first team, which means you had Sherfield running and operating there, which means you got to see Hurd out there on the field with that second unit a little bit more than maybe you would have if Sherfield was operating down there with the twos, because there probably would have been less opportunity for Hurd with that third group because they didn't get as many snaps.
Yeah, and I seen Jag talking about Tart. Concern with Tart is Tart was getting some workout in early.
He was.
He was out there. Jeff Wilson Jr. was out there, and they were getting some work. But I think there is a concern with Tart. I mean, anytime it's a foot thing, you kind of worry about it. His is a toe, so you just never know how long these things are going to last. You hope that he's going to start coming back. The fact that he was working out early on is a good sign. He was also helping the refs, letting them know, hey, no, Trey Sherman stepped out on that one. That wasn't no touchdown. You need to move it back here to the 3-yard line, which I thought was funny. But he's out there interacting and at least being a part of the team, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I mean, I think that is concerning because he's not out there at all. If he was at least out there participating in in individuals like you get from Nick Bosa and those guys,
he'd be closer.
Yeah, you at least see it, right? You know that eventually it's going to progress into team 11-on-11 drills and then eventually games. But right now he's nowhere near that because he's not out there doing those individual drills yet.
Correct. He's not doing them at all yet. And you know what? It's going to take some time. But this is the thing we talked about with Jaquiski Tart is that he tends to get banged up. Yeah. He gets banged up at the wrong times, and then it puts this team in bad situations. This team has done everything that they possibly can to really solidify and be able to clog up or plug up any holes that may come about. The safety room took a hit, and so they went out and brought in HaHa Clinton-Dix, but they're not going to have to rely on HaHa Clinton-Dix. Clinton-Dix wasn't brought in to be a guy to compete and push for a roster spot. He was brought in more of a camp body, and if he shows out, great, and if he doesn't, okay, it is what it is. You just needed someone out there in case something else happens. Tavon Wilson has looked phenomenal when he's been out there. Tony Jefferson has looked phenomenal when he's been out there. Jimmy Ward has been incredible all camp long. So I really am not as worried about this safety group. I'm worried about Jaquiski Tart because he may not end up being able to make this roster if he's not out there. But there's only so much you can do, and when you're not on the field, you're basically just it's a game of Russian roulette. You don't know what's going to happen. You're either going to be able to something else is going to happen, and that roster spot's going to open up for you. You're going to get yourself back on the field and show that you deserve to be there, or you're going to end up being gone.
Yeah, and thanks, David, for the super chat. He said, Banks is big. Dude blocks out the sun.
He's pretty big.
He is. He's very big.
Big. Appreciate that, David. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Steven asked, do you see Bosa playing in any preseason games, or do you think they will wait until week 1? I have a sneaky suspicion if we were going to see him, we would see him for a series or two in the third game, right? They've said that's the dress rehearsal. I don't think we'll see him before that. There's always a possibility you could see him next week, but we haven't seen him do any 11-on-11 drills. If he was doing 11-on-11 drills, then I would say yes, that is a possibility he's going to play in the preseason. But right now I think it's trending towards him not, and us not seeing Nick Bosa until Detroit.
I say that's fair. I would lean more towards him having to wait, or the Niners waiting until week 1. And even then, I don't know if he even trots out in the very first series of the game. They may be very careful with him and save him.
Come on, the media staff said he's the starter.
I'm aware. He'd still be the starter, right? He'd still be the number one guy.
If he doesn't start on the field, he's not the starter.
That's how that works.
That's exactly how that works.
Macon with the $2.99 Niners! We love it. We love it a lot. Yeah. Thank you, Macon.
I had a coach to try to convince me I was a starter, even though I wasn't on the field to start the game. That doesn't work for me, Alex. Don't be that guy.
I'm not saying that he's the starter. I'm just saying that he may not start. I mean, that week 1 game against the Lions, they may not, it depends on how much 11-on-11 work he's getting. If he's not doing 11-on-11 work leading into that week 1 game, or only gets a few practices in, and they're saying that he's suiting up and is available to play in that week 1 game, I just don't see him trotting out there on the field potentially in that first series.
Why not? What does he need to work on?
I mean, I guess technically nothing, right? I mean, he's looked great so far in everything that we've seen doing. I would be remiss to believe fully, wholeheartedly that if this guy wasn't doing 11 and 11s by the time we get to week 1, the first week of the season, that he is going to walk out there on the first series and they're going to put him out there ready to go. They may save him early on in the year, like for situationals, to keep his legs fresh as they slowly work him into football shape and that football game speed again.
So you don't think he's Fred Dean? He can't walk in week 11.
He probably can.
Walk in week 11 smoking a cigarette, show up, go in there, and just play well.
Can.
Yeah.
I think he could.
No, I think they're going to take a very cautious approach with him. That's what they're doing. But at some point, he's going to get in there, whether that's in practice or that's in a preseason game. I think if I was the coach, and this is just me, this isn't what Kyle would do, I would want to get him a couple of series against the third team, against the Raiders, just to get him out there and get that feel again. And then that way you can start him at Detroit, and he's comfortable. He's used to playing again against another team. But ultimately, this is a guy that's played football his whole entire life. He understands what it takes. He's played a year in the NFL. He knows what it takes to be successful at the NFL level. You'll worry a little bit about the amount of snaps he plays because he probably won't play as many as you would like because of conditioning reasons. Because you can't get in shape unless you're playing football. That's how you get in football shape. So that is something that will have to be addressed. But they could also rotate him in and out, and he could start the game and then ultimately do more like a D Ford type role where he is playing a lot of snaps, on obvious pass downs. Use him as the pass rusher. I think they want him in all the time, but that might not be there for him early on where he has that amount of snaps. But I definitely would almost guarantee that on week 1, Nick Bosa is going to line up at right defensive end on snap number 1 when they're on defense.
I like it. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to build myself up for something and then be disappointed either. So I'm going to try and play that middle ground until I see a little bit more.
No middle ground for me. I'm on it.
I like it. I like the fact that one of us has to be on it, right?
Yeah.
One of us has got to be there. Look, Ebukam. Megan had asked about it. Gary gives the nice Ebu bomb. As of right now, not a lot going on. We don't really know. He wasn't really out there today. He wasn't getting a lot of work in at all. He didn't do anything. I didn't even actually physically see him out there today. I imagine that's going to be a guy that's not playing this Saturday.
I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's not playing next Saturday either.
I don't know about that. He was getting working on Tuesday when we were out there.
He was doing some stuff and doing some sprint stuff.
And he's done 11 on 11s, and he's done that stuff. I won't go ahead and say that he's going to go all the way out for next week. This week is more up in the air. I think next week is a different week because if he goes out there, maybe they've rested him this whole week knowing that he can go out there
and get going.
I think that, it's like one of those things where he understands the install. He understands the defense. We could push him and try to get these extra reps, or we can just make him healthy, wait, and he can get 2 good weeks in with our defense.
We can get 2 good weeks in, right? And you get a better look at some of these other guys that you got behind him.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you're going to have the availability of, Yarborough and those guys.
Yeah.
Arden Key got a lot more snaps than he would have normally got if you have, him out there as well.
Correct. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Mr. Sampson, Ebukam. But you know what? I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what happens. I'm looking forward to see what this team can do.
Agreed.
Because football is officially here, folks.
Yeah.
It is football time. It is football year. It is the 2021 season. The preseason, anyway, is upon us as we build towards the 2021 season. Where I think are we Raheem Mostert days away from an NFL season, from an NFL game?
That I do not know.
I think it's pretty much.
If we are 31 days away, then yes, we're Raheem Mostert away.
It's accurate. I don't know if we actually are or not, but it's fine because at the end of the day, the Niners football starts again this weekend. We get a look at this team, and preseason is some of the most fun games because you're going to get that back end of the roster who is clamoring and fighting for those last few slots on the 53-man roster, putting everything they can on tape to prove and show that they belong and that they deserve an opportunity to make a 53-man roster in San Francisco or make a 53-man roster somewhere else in the league.
Yeah, and the grind has started. These guys are preparing now for other teams. In preseason, there's no real game planning. It's kind of real limited. You just want to know what kind of sets they're going to run and that kind of thing, but you don't actually scheme to win these football games or anything like that. So it is going to be a little bit different through preseason. But there's only 3 of them this year. There's not the 4th one. The 4th one used to be kind of a throwaway for the the starters, the coaches were just looking to get through it without having any injuries. Now Game 3 is a dress rehearsal, and then there is no Game 4. So it is a different preseason, a different dynamic to this season, and 17 games. So it's going to be a fun preseason. These games are going to go fast. Enjoy them. Enjoy watching these young players. Enjoy watching some of the depth players because starting after this game, here comes the cuts. The cuts are coming, and every single week there's going to be more cuts, and they're going to cut this team, and they're going to shape this roster. And I'm curious how this roster ends up shaking out, and what it looks like. We've already seen that Sherfield has ascended, and I know some people had him on the 53-man roster. A lot of people didn't, and now it looks like he's going to be a straight lock for that 53-man roster spot.
It definitely does. It looks like he's going to be a lock indeed. Chat, Cutback crew, start laying in your questions right now. Anything else that you guys want us to answer or talk about? Right now is the time. Start throwing those questions in. Jag here, I know that the 49ers don't value corners or safeties usually, but it's crazy to think that we might need to draft a safety high in the upcoming draft.
Yeah, we could.
Possibly.
I mean, it all depends on what they think of Talanoa Hufanga. If Talanoa Hufanga is developing nice, then it might be best for them to keep Talanoa Hufanga and Jimmy Ward, next to each other, and those guys play. They could also re-sign Tarvarius Moore. So they still might not go that route. I don't know if the 49ers will ever draft a safety high. I really don't think it's a top priority for them. I think they can get guys later on in the draft and take advantage of them, as far as take advantage of their skill set. So, we'll see what they end up doing. But I think if they do take a safety high, there's no guarantee it doesn't end up being a linebacker.
Yeah, that's very, very true indeed. It wouldn't be the first time that they've done that exact thing. It's going to be preseason games. I mean, they are what they are, right? Corey Davis, do you think Jalen Hurd should play in the preseason? That's a good question. Yes. 100% he needs to play in the preseason because you need to see what he can do, and you need to see how he holds up, his body holds up. Those are all questions. If you just sit and rest him, put him on the 53-man roster, and then throw him out there in the game, and then he doesn't hold up and body doesn't hold up, that's a spot that potentially you would have given to somebody else if you knew that beforehand. You also just want to see how he executes and performs in this offense and the things that he can do and the level at which he can do them at to an extent.
He has to earn it. He has to go out there and he has to earn it, and he has to prove that he is dependable and that the team can count on him. And if he goes out there and he gets snaps in 2 of the preseason games and proves to his team that he's dependable, he can do what Kyle wants, then he's going to make this roster because there's too much potential there. Kyle sees all the things he can do with Jalen Hurd, so that potential is going to outweigh somebody else, but they have to feel comfortable with the fact that, yes, this guy's going to be out there game in and game out for us. We don't want to cut somebody else and then Jalen get hurt and us lose out on having that player. How terrible would that be if they cut a very good player to keep Jalen Hurd and then Hurd got hurt and then once again, now you're without 2 good players instead of 1. So you have to be very thoughtful on how you do this, and they're going to take their time, but part of that is him being out on the field. And if he's not out on the field for those preseason games, he's going to end up on the IR or the PUP list. That's a guarantee.
Correct. Lou, you talking about Jalen Moore or are we talking about Tarvarius Moore?
He put Jay Moore.
So Jalen Moore, look, he doesn't look bad. I haven't seen anything that's of big concern with Jalen Moore. I really want to see him going up against another opponent before I get too crazy on what he's been doing, but he has looked solid. He didn't look terrible today either.
No, today the left side of the line looked a lot better once Colton McKivitz was playing guard. I thought that those 2 guys worked good together. Jalen Moore was getting all he could handle from Jordan Willis.
Yep.
Jordan Willis is a problem, and he was able to beat Moore a couple of times around the outside. Not always able to get home. Sometimes Moore would kind of make, push him upfield, make Trey Lance move up in the pocket. But Moore is definitely a lot better and farther along at the left tackle spot than I thought he was going to be. And the fact that they're playing McKivitz now at left guard means it looks like Jalen Moore is going to have this spot locked up. Sean Coleman's been relegated to the 3rd team.
Yep.
So it looks like Moore is going to be the swing tackle.
I like
so
that.
There is definitely that looks like that is a win. Now, of course, he has to continue to hold that position all the way through the preseason games. But if he has the good showings, I don't think there's any reason to believe he's not going to be that swing tackle.
I agree with you there. Pinor, how many Super Bowls we winning in Lance rookie contract with a 5th-year option?
I don't know. That's a good question. It all depends on what they end up doing with the salaries next year because you have a lot of free agents you're going to have to take care of. You have a hole at strong safety. You're going to have, Jimmy's contract will probably be coming off the books, but what are you going to do with that $25 million? You have to pay Jason Verrett. You have to make sure you hold on to other players. And now you're starting to get into contract time for Deebo Samuel. He'll be going into the last year of his contract. And other guys, Dre Greenlaw will be going into the last year of his contract. So these are guys you're going to have to address down the road. So it's really going to take some evaluation and some big thoughts, on what they can do. But I think they know that the salary cap's about to explode. And all going to come down to that. If the salary cap, if they can keep it together, they can bring back, wonder if they let Mostert walk after this. If they can keep it all together, maybe they can win some Super Bowls. We'll see. It's so hard to win a Super Bowl in the NFL that I'm never going to make it a foregone conclusion that Trey Lance is going to win one. I hope he does. That would be the best thing for the 49ers fans, and for all of us, we'd be excited. But just knowing how hard that was and is, I can't go ahead and say we're going to win Super Bowls in that rookie contract.
I won't say it, but here's what I would like to say. What I would like to say is ideally you want to get at least one. You want to get at least one in that rookie contract. So I'll leave it at that. If we can get one out of Trey Lance in that rookie contract, then it was a great move.
Yeah. Anytime you can win one, it's a great move. So anything you have to do to win a Super Bowl, you strike while the iron's hot. You've heard me say that before, and that's part of the reason you never have a throwaway year. When people were telling us that they needed to go ahead and move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, one of the first things that, I wanted to do was make sure that we didn't get away with anyone.
Jay Elliott asked thoughts on our second team linebackers, especially with Shire.
Let me say to Pinor, I can tiptoe all I want. Okay,
you can tiptoe.
I definitely can, because without all the information, you can't make an informed decision. And with all the information, how can I make a proper decision?
Wait a minute. You need information to make decisions? You don't just throw things out there willy-nilly?
Yeah, not on a whim, no.
Wow, that's crazy. I thought that's right. We tend to be a little more rational.
But what did Corey say?
Well, not Corey. Jay Ellie had asked thoughts on our second team linebackers. We'll get to Corey here in a second. Thoughts on our second team linebackers, especially with Al-Shaair injured.
Jonas Griffith looks good. Not great yet, but he looks really good. So get used to it. You're going to see him playing out there probably with the first unit, and then he's going to play the first unit on the outside alongside Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, and then when he gets to the second unit, he's going to play the Fred Warner Mike position. He's going to man that position. Lately, it's been Marcel Harris. I don't know if Flanagan Foles is going to be cleared from the concussion protocol, so you're going to see Marcel Harris. Those have been the guys that have been taking the second reps. Of course, they have Burgess. They have the other guy they just signed recently. I can't remember his name. The guy from the Jags. They signed him a couple days ago.
Yep, I forget
he'll be playing too. But overall, I think he's the one to get excited about. Is Jonas Griffith? He would have been playing with Flanagan Foles on that second unit, but I think he's ascending now. I think they're seeing him. He's big. He's tall. He's long. He's flying around. His coverage was always the worry, and he's able to flip his hips. He's able to run with people. Seems like recognition is there.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely growing in front of our eyes, and someone exciting to watch during the preseason. So if you're going to watch someone, keep an eye out on number 53 out there.
And they are both having better camps right now than Sullivan and Hilliard. Hilliard has some times in coverage where he's struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Another one from Sac Francisco. Is there any room on this roster for Trent Sherfield and Travis Benjamin if Jalen Hurd showing up?
Repeat that.
Is there any room on the roster for Trent Sherfield and Travis Benjamin with Jalen Hurd showing up?
Yes. Different skill sets. Sherfield, he's able to compete. Think about the way Kendrick Bourne was. That is what you're getting out of Trent Sherfield, maybe to just a little bit of a higher level, because Bourne wasn't able to always win the vertical battles down the field.
Accurate.
Where Sherfield so far in practice has proven it.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if that's going to translate to the game, because I haven't seen it yet. Where I know Kendrick Bourne's didn't translate to the game, right? He couldn't win consistently downfield. Sherfield so far has looked like it. With Travis Benjamin, the vertical threat is something different than Jalen Hurd does. Can Jalen get vertical at times? Yes. But Jalen's going to operate in the middle of the field. Jalen's going to catch balls and then be able to turn upfield and get going. So they all add different aspects. That's why when you're putting this group together, they kind of fit in a nice way, right? Their skill sets kind of fit where
you can mix and match.
You mix and match, and you can put people in positions to be successful. Somebody's not going to make this roster, though, and who's that going to be? Because you got Debo, you got Brandon Ayuk, you've got Jalen Hurd, you got Mohamed Sanu, you've got what's his name, Sherfield, and then who's that sixth guy?
That's going to be tough, man. That's going to be really, really tough. This wide receiver room is stacked.
Because you still have Richie James. You still have Juwan Jennings. You have guys that are sitting there, River Craycraft.
And he's put together a couple of good days.
And Jennings put together a great day on Tuesday where he was winning in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be very, very close indeed. I do think there's room for all three of them. It's just a matter of who else is going to get let go or kind of snipped out of that group, because there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of guys who have shown up and shown some things. Now, granted, Jalen Hurd has done it really for one day, is what we saw today, but it was a freaking great one day. It was an incredible one day. He was winning every battle. He was winning every route. He was catching every ball that came his way, getting physical, taking licks, dealing them out. The guy looked clean. He looked like the best version of himself, and he looks like a significantly improved route runner and player than he did when he first came into camp a few years ago.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Stephen Breyer asked, excluding injuries, who is the biggest excluding injuries, who is the biggest threat to our quest for 6? Do you feel there's more of a threat from the NFC or the AFC?
I would say it's the NFC. I think the biggest threat is gonna come from within our own division first. We have to win in the division. We have to be able to get out of the West, and then after that, then you have a couple of teams that are calculated that you'll have to take care of. Tampa Bay, of course, maybe Green Bay. Which I think the 49ers match up really well with, but you still have to beat Seattle, LA, and Arizona. And if you do it, you have a good chance of making a run in the playoffs. And if you don't, it's going to be a hard road. So I would say that's where I would start.
Yeah, I would say you have to start in the NFC. You got to start in your own conference. You got to start in your own division. Obviously, you have the names out there, right? You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got the Green Bay Packers that are teams you're going to have to watch out for. Pissed off Aaron Rodgers is a thing. He is real, folks. He is very upset, and he is going to be out with a vengeance this year to show that the MVP season last year wasn't a fluke. He's going to try and stack on that performance this year.
That is true.
And then go, create some nice leverage for himself. But the 49ers have to take care of their own conference first, because you have 3 teams that you're playing twice this season that are all very talented, whether it's the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, whether it's the new Matthew Stafford left Rams, who are still returning a very solid defense, or whether it's all the crazy weapons on offense in the Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Horsbury down there. Any of those teams in the NFC West can present problems for the 49ers and have in the past. So they're going to have to be prepared each and every week to deal with this. They're going to have to take care of the NFC West first, because if they take care of the NFC West first, and I think if they can run the table in the NFC West or get gosh darn near close to running the table in the NFC West, they're going to put themselves easily in one of the top 2 spots going into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. If they do anything 4-2, 5-1 in the NFC West, they have a very good opportunity to be one of those top 2 seeds. If you get home field advantage, that's where you want to sit. You want to give yourself an opportunity to win in your home field. So, yeah, anything like that would be very, very great for the 49ers. And I think they have the potential, because of the way they match up overall, as far as their offense is a very tough matchup for some of these defenses, the way they're constituted and able to run in the middle.
Agreed. Jag asked, who will be the number 3 receiver, Sanu or Sherfield? I think it's too early to call on this. I think both those guys,
battling.
Those 2 right now are definitely battling, but by no means is Jalen Hurd out of the running for the wide receiver 3 battle. By no means is Travis Benjamin out of the run for the wide receiver 3 battle. I think Sanu right now is kind of the bona fide, solidified guy right now. He has the edge up over everyone else at the moment. Sherfield has kind of worked himself up now into those ranks. But Travis Benjamin is a guy who understands his system, and he showed the ability today for the big play. The big play ability with Travis Benjamin is there in this offense. It's really going to come down to him getting more familiar with Jimmy and Trey in that offense and getting comfortable with them in the routes, and especially the deep ball stuff. Because if they can get those things cleaned up, then at any point in time, you can run Travis Benjamin underneath, over the middle, underneath, and then have him run a double move and get over the top of everybody real quick, and all of a sudden it's big play city. So he still has the ability, and we've been talking about, and we will continue to talk about until it either comes to fruition or completely falls off the wheels. Jalen Hurd's diversity and the things that he brings to the table. I think all 4 of those guys are right now currently in the running. I think you have Sanu up front. I think Sherfield has kind of pulled himself into that spot behind him, and then you have Hurd, who people were talking about his stock being down. After today's practice, his stock ain't down, folks. He's right in that conversation.
That's why it's a little bit hard to go off each performance, right? They have down days, they have up days, and you realize that they're probably somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? But I would say that you're very correct. Right now, from everything we've saw in the times we've been there, Mohamed Sanu right now is the 3. Sherfield is pushing him. He's on his heels. He's right there. And then you've got the idea of Jalen Hurd, what he could be. The ultimate number 3 is what they actually want from him. He's got this new size. He's got the sure field aggressiveness. He's kind of that combination, but he hasn't been healthy. Then you've got your outliers. Where Travis Benjamin, I don't think he'll be the wide receiver 3. I think he's a nice change of pace guy at the end of your receiving room. And then you got somebody like Jawan Jennings, where he has days like he had on Tuesday, where he proves he's a huge red zone threat. Is that enough to make him a wide receiver 3? Probably not. He's somebody that's probably your 5th or 6th wide receiver, and you're super excited about that.
That's pretty solid.
I think the fact that we're even talking about these guys, I seen somebody comment about the position battles at receiver has been so awesome all through camp. It is. It's so intriguing because I really do think they have 5 or 6 guys that are very, very good, and then a couple guys that are right there on the fringe of being good that could develop, even more during the season. So they're going to lose some good players when they have to make these cuts.
Absolutely. Sean was accurate on that. He also brought up Watkins' name, and Watkins has put together some good days. Watkins is dealing with a little bit of a toe issue now, so we'll see how he's able to push through that.
Yeah.
May hinder him a little bit. Not great for an undrafted guy to be dealing with something like that. I don't know if it's just like some sort of sprain or if it's turf toe, but we're hoping he can continue to push through it. Lou had a nice off-subject question here, is when do they try to extend Jason Verrett? Not if, or is there a possibility when, Ant, if they're going to do it?
I'll bet you they start talking to him in the end of October, early November about a possible extension, trying to work it out. They're going to want to get this done before the season's over and before he gets to free agency. If he's allowed to test the market, especially if he has the season we think he's going to have, he could break the bank because somebody now is going to see that Verrett is back. He's proven it over 2 years, once this becomes time. And someone was willing to give him a 4-year deal last year, and he turned it down to come back to San Francisco. Somebody else, probably more than one team, will be willing to give him that deal now. And there's going to be a lot of money out there. The salary cap's going to go up. So Jason Verrett's going to be looking to make a nice contract. The 49ers aren't going to be able to get him on a cheap deal like they did right now. So I think that's when it would be, late October, early November. They'll start talking, seeing what they can work out, seeing if they can, possibly lock him up for the future.
And they're going to have to. They're going to need to lock this guy up for the future because if he's healthy and playing at an elite level, and so far he has been, and so far we've seen that from this guy in camp so far, you don't want to wait very long.
No.
Because the longer you wait, the more likely it is that he is going to want to test the market and want to see exactly how much he can get. Whereas if you're just the 49ers and you're a little preemptive, look, you may have to pay him a little bit more than necessarily you want to, but that shores up one half of your field, and you have now something you don't need to worry about for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, you want to lock down a lockdown corner. You don't want to have to count on getting one in the draft, which is really hard. You don't always have that draft capital to be able to get one. So you make sure you get this guy. He's someone that knows your knows your system, has a really good relationship with Jimmy Ward, is becoming a captain of your defense. One of those guys that you can count on in that secondary. So you want to reward those guys and you want to keep them there. So I see. I think this is an easy one that they should be trying to work out.
I agree. Jag had asked, is Richie James in Shanahan's doghouse like Pettis?
No.
Doesn't feel that way.
No, because he's getting opportunities to make plays. They're looking his way. They're throwing him the football. He just hasn't executed yet. If he continues to do what he's doing right now, he won't just be in a doghouse. He'll be gone.
Accurate.
I mean, they'll release him because there's too many good players ahead of him that are stacking better days than he is right now. Right now, Richie James is kind of just out there, and he's not doing anything big. He's not making any plays. He's not standing out. And in a room full of guys now, they have a lot of big guys that are very physically imposing, that stand out amongst everyone else. He hasn't done that, and he hasn't been able to beat people deep the same way Travis Benjamin has when we've been there.
Correct. He has not. You haven't really seen a lot of Richie James's ability to create separation and make big catches. We have seen him drop balls in the red zone and drop would-be surefire touchdowns that hit him right in the hands.
True.
So, when he has had his opportunities and his moments to set himself apart or show that there's something that he could add to this offense, he hasn't done it. And that hasn't been the case with some of these other guys. Sherfield, pretty much anytime he's had an opportunity to make a big play, he's made it. River Craycraft, when he's had opportunities to make big plays, he's made them. Richie James' stock is down. I mean, when I said this a little bit earlier, it is, if there's one wide receiver whose stock is truly, truly down, It is Richie James's.
Yeah, I think that the questions before the last couple of days were Richie James and Jalen Hurd. Two guys that, you thought, the 49ers are going to have to give up on these guys. One of those guys has answered the bell. One of those guys is out there, and
he got up for the 10 count.
I mean, and you unfortunately, what's bad is no one asks questions about Richie James, right? No media asks about him. No, he's just kind of there. He's flying under the radar, and that's not a good situation when you have all this other talent. I mean, Jawan Jennings was a 7th-round pick, and we talk more about Jawan Jennings than we do Richie James. Richie James needs to step it up and to get it done. Hopefully, he'll have good success against in the preseason because I want to see him do well. I want to see them all do well. But right now, he's becoming an afterthought. And in a very crowded room, you don't want to be the guy standing in the back that no one can see.
Correct. And it's funny that you talk about that because you and I at one point talked about, we saw Jalen Hurd, and he was kind of not a lot of the time, but a good chunk of time today. He spent a lot of time on his own, really kind of focused in when he wasn't in doing stuff. But I'll tell you what, after that drive in the red zone where he had those 2 big catches, he goes over to the sideline. Debo was the first guy over there, dapping him up, getting up in him, like, hey, like talking him up a little bit while he was trying to catch his wind and get his legs back. I liked seeing that. Jalen Hurd is a quiet guy. Jalen Hurd is a focused guy. Jalen Hurd is hearing the things that are being said about Jalen Hurd, and it's very obvious after today's performance, and I think we're going to continue to see this out of Jalen Hurd going forward. He has something to prove. Yeah,
a couple of guys made an approach, right? They made it a point to go out there and say, look, we appreciate what you're doing. Way to go, kid. Keep it up. George Kittle was another one that went over there and made sure he told him good job when he came off the field. And so that that was the first time that we saw kind of that interaction. You would see like normal conversation, but you didn't see like an interaction where they were like super excited or exuberant about what he is doing. And they did. And so that's important for his growth and important for the team camaraderie overall.
Absolutely. You want everyone working on the same page and wanting to work towards the same goal. Jag, who is the leader in the clubhouse to be our punt and kickoff returner? I would say it's too hard to name one because we haven't really seen anything. I mean, the best that we've seen is some guys out there fielding punts on the Saturday that we were there.
Well, we know it won't be Kevin White now.
It's not going to be Kevin White with 100% certainty because he gone.
Yeah.
He gone, and he gone, Cutback crew. But I would say that Richie James is probably going to get a run early this coming week because he's been a guy who's been the staple in terms of returning kicks. But don't be shocked if you don't see a little bit of Brandon Ayuk, maybe not in this first preseason game, but maybe in the second and third one. And for sure, I would imagine you're going to see some Mohamed Sanu and Travis Benjamin.
Yeah, those are the guys that are taking reps. Now it's down to I think River Craycraft as well.
Craycraft as well.
Yes. Yeah, Richie Hightower said that these guys were all going to get opportunities, that they were all going to get to go out there and catch the ball. And he didn't know how many reps because he has to talk to Kyle, and because when starters are doing it, it's kind of a different thing. And right now, Mohamed Sanu and Brandon Ayuk are probably starters. So it's going to be a little bit of a different ball game for them.
Yep.
But I think all these guys are going to get opportunities. I think the best returner of all of them will be Brandon Ayuk overall, just because he's so talented. But I think the best one right now is probably Travis Benjamin because he knows how to do it. He has a dynamic ability. He's returned 4 punts for touchdown. We also might get a different guy fielding punts and a different guy fielding kicks.
Right.
But it's going to be one of those 4 or 5 guys that do it. And do it consistently. And a lot of it's going to depend on who makes the team, right? If River Craycraft doesn't make the team, he's obviously not fielding kicks and punts for you during the season.
Accurate. Matt Callaway here. Besides Debo and Ayuk, which receivers are going to run those jet sweep plays that open up the horizontal offense? Because he said that he thinks those things open everything up offensively for this team.
It's true.
We saw Jalen Hurd going in motion a lot today while he was out there.
Yep.
Jawan Jennings doing similar types of
things.
Well,
they faked it to him on jet sweeps.
They did, and then you also saw a little bit of Travis Benjamin in that kind of role as well.
Sherfield as well.
Yep. So all 4 of those guys can do it, and those are the 4 names that we were talking. Well, 3 of those.
Jawan Jennings. They all do it. They all do it. I mean, that is the scary part, right? I seen River Craycraft go in motion like he's going to do it.
Correct.
Do I think he's actually going to get the ball? No, it's kind of the Kendrick Bourne thing.
It's closer to Kendrick Bourne.
Right, where you see him going, you don't think he's actually going to get it. But all those other guys, they've given him the ball before, and they run around the outside. They even gave it to Richie James today.
They did.
And he ran the fly sweep around the outside. So, yeah, that's going to be a staple of the offense. That's just the way it is.
And there's a lot of names that could do it. I think this is one of the years, right, where you and I both feel like they have a lot of guys that can play that additional role and can do it better than Kendrick Bourne did. Because when Kendrick Bourne would go in motion on those fly sweep actions, you and I both know that he wasn't getting it. NFL defensive coordinators knew he wasn't getting it. Every fan in the stadium knew that he wasn't getting it. There was no respect for Kendrick Bourne going in motion.
Not on that type of play.
No, not at all. Sean Bullard asks, why not use Elijah Mitchell and Jermichael Hasty for returning? You very well could be the case. You could see it. but I haven't seen as much Elijah Mitchell. I don't see JaMychal Hasty ever returning kick or punt returns.
It won't be JaMychal Hasty for one reason. He fumbles. JaMychal Hasty has fumble issues, so you don't want to ever have a turnover on special teams. So he's one that's probably down the list. And then as far as Elijah Mitchell, I know when Hightower was talking about him, he said he was somebody that had a little bit of experience, but to me it didn't sound like they saw that role for him this year. Could it eventually develop? Yes, of course, it could change. If Hasty could figure out his fumbles, maybe it could change. But I think those are the main reasons why. They have other ideas for what those two guys can do talent-wise. I know Elijah Mitchell's going to be a gunner on punt. They're using him kind of like they did with Raheem Mostert back in 2019 before he took off as a running back. So they're going to use those guys in those areas. I mean, the fact that Ambry Thomas is not mentioned in that, and he's a kick and punt returner in college, just shows you that maybe they are really high on the guys that they actually have back there right now.
It's true. They may be very high on them. And you know what? Preseason games are going to give a good idea and a good insight into how well those guys are performing and what they're doing. So just going to have to kind of wait and see, play that one by ear. A lot of positions you're going to have to do that with this team.
Correct.
There's a lot of position battles going on and happening around. We had talked about stuff on the O-line that hasn't really panned out as much as we thought as it was going to. It hasn't developed and festered the way that we believed it was going to. With Colton McKivitz now moving over into that left guard slot, right? Maybe there's a position battle brewing in terms of not at the left guard spot, but if Colton McKivitz starts getting reps and looking good at that left guard spot, maybe he's going to be pushing for an opportunity to start at that right guard position over Brunskill. As of right now, though, there really is no position battle on the O-line with his first five. The first five is who we thought they were going to be. Brunskill at the right guard, Tomlinson at the left guard. Obviously, the Silverback and Trent Williams there at left tackle. Mike Big Ol' McGlinchey there at right tackle.
He's so big.
He's freaking huge, dude.
I mean, he was so close to me today. Because we didn't even tell you when I won the raffle.
That's right.
And I won an autograph football. Fred Warner autograph, Javon Kinlaw, and Azeez Al-Shair. So that was awesome.
This guy always wins.
It was exciting, and I got to be closer than me and you are right now for Mike McGlinchey, and he's massive.
He's huge.
Yeah, he didn't draw my ticket. That would have been cool.
McGlinchey is big in the sense of like he's big and then big.
Yeah.
Trent Williams isn't as big, but he's big. He's big.
Trent Williams is, yeah.
Bro, when he was out there dancing and stuff, I thought it was like so funny. And then we got up close to him and I was like, dude, nah, he just scares me.
Yeah, he's massive.
He's just terrifying.
Yeah, he is.
He really is. Do you expect Kinlaw to start ahead of DJ Jones alongside Armstead?
Yeah. Yeah, the starting defensive line, Armstead and Bosa at the defensive ends, Kinlaw and DJ Jones on the interior. Kinlaw will play the 3-tech, DJ Jones will play the 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, with Armstead on the outside.
Yeah, he's playing the defensive end.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think the starting group is going to be.
Yeah, that is. And then they'll have, the other guys come in a rotation. D Ford specifically in special situations. Ebukam, more that rotation guy, but also on pass situations.
And Arden Key on occasion.
Arden Key is more of a base down guy. So he's going to come in and give Nick Bosa a break. And that's what Jordan Willis would do as well. Those guys are base 4-3 defensive ends that play out, the wide 9 and can set the edge for the run.
Agree with you there. Look, I mean, I need to see it. I need football. I need it in my life. I need 49ers football in my veins. It needs to happen right now. I just wish tomorrow was Saturday. That's the only thing. But you know what, Ant? It's okay that tomorrow's not Saturday because we got a nice, wonderful preview show, the first preview show of the year. Tomorrow's live stream, 5:30 p.m. You're not going to want to miss any of it. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to have some key matchups potentially to go over. We got some nice little cool graphics to talk about and discuss. We got a little bit of a not a free preview show, but a little bit of a preview show of what we do in season for you. You're not going to want to miss any of it. That's going to be 5:30 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night, covering this 49ers versus Chiefs opening preseason game of 2021.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to get into it. We'll talk about the players that are on the bubble that we need to watch. Maybe just players to show. We talked about a lot of them today, but I think we can go over a little bit further to what to expect. And especially now Kyle Shanahan did us a huge favor and told us when Jimmy's playing and when he's not, or we would have been trying to figure that out. I think it's not a surprise to us at all about how the breakdown is going to be. The only thing that's going to be up in the air is whether Rosen gets in the fourth quarter or if Kyle Shanahan says, sorry, Josh Rosen, we're out of time, and he doesn't get on the field.
We'll see you on the next preseason game. I mean, that very well could happen. I'm going to be very interested to see how much run they give Nate Sudfeld. and how much run they give Josh Rosen, how much run these running backs are getting as well, these second, third string running backs, and what they're doing with the rotations at wide receiver. Who's going in and running with the second group, who's going in and running with the third group. Is there a mix between that second and the third group, and they're really just trying to get enough guys out there and get enough film on them to see some good stuff out of them. Very interested to see what the secondary does as well, especially when you get to the second and third team, especially the third team, because we've seen them in practice and they tend to struggle. So when that third group gets out there on Saturday, how are they looking? Is it just that the Niners' third string offense and the third string wide receivers have been playing really, really well? Because there have been times where that third string secondary group is going against our first team wide receivers and getting just torched. So when they're out there going up against another team's threes, how do they really look? It's going to be very interesting.
There is not a single position where you don't have an interesting player.
Correct.
All throughout the offensive line, everywhere you look, there's an interesting player that you need to watch. You can literally watch this whole game, preseason game. It has nothing to do with the score either. Just to see how these guys are winning individual battles and battling for their football careers to try to make this football team, to try to build the best football team that you can possibly have. That's going to be exciting. And I have a ton of stuff. I guarantee you, I can't wait to go over it because I have a ton of stuff of guys I want to see and how they're going to be able to operate in this defense or in this offense and how eventually they can make this roster.
100%. There's a list. There's a list of guys for the both of us that we're excited to watch it.
You just made the list.
Oh my gosh. I made it, me personally?
Maybe.
Oh my goodness gracious. Look, it's going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday is going to be great. Tomorrow's live stream is going to be off the charts. For those of you who you haven't been around for the full year, right? You didn't start watching us back last year in week 1 for that Arizona Cardinals game. This is going to be your first taste of a little bit of what our preview shows are like. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a blast. It's the first time that we're ever going to be doing it live on air. So make sure you tune in, 5:30 Pacific time. Be here. I'm pumped about tomorrow's stream. I'm pumped about Saturday. Football is here. 49ers football is in. Oh my gosh. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Go to the Cutback Shop, 49erscutbackshop.com. Get your gear to rep the 49ers. Get your gear to support the Cutback crew. This is a great time, man.
Yeah, be like the bus driver from 49ers training camp that loved the t-shirt and is going to go to 49ersshop.com and get one, or 49erscutbackshop.com and get one.
He's going to do that.
He loved it. Mentioned it multiple times. You could love it too. It could be nice on you, and you could be getting those compliments. So make sure you do that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're bringing that hype over from training camp. The energy that was there is infectious. There's a lot of optimism surrounding this team and this coaches. You can feel it with the fans. The fans were excited, and all that's going to be carried in tomorrow's episode. We're going to have a lot of fun with that, and that's going to lead us straight into this preseason game where we get to witness Trey in the Bay. We get to witness everything that's going to be going on with this 49ers roster, and we can start getting an idea of how this team is going to look. I'm here for all of it.
Here for all of it. You want to be here for all of it, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell. And until tomorrow night, faithful and Cutback crew, you stay safe.
And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.